Hey, you know that guy who just before the green flag keys up his mic and asks, "Anybody got a setup?" Well, this is him. This is Adam, and hey, Adam needs some help. On the other hand, this guy over here, this is Steve. Steve is a solid racer and he knows his way around the garage. Steve's problem is time. With a job and a family, he can't find enough time to build competitive setups and to race as often as he likes. But as luck would have it, Steve knows a secret. He lets the Majors Garage crew chiefs do the setup work so he can focus on the racing. At majorsgarage.com, Steve can get setups for over 60 cars on the iRacing service. So no matter what series he wants to jump into, he is covered. Somebody, anybody, really should tell Adam. See you at the garage.
There is no greater circuit when you get into the flow for endurance-style racing than this one. You get yourself set for what is some incredible action. There is so much that is on the table. This is a season that goes year-round. This is a championship that is so special when it comes to iRacing. Time and again, it proves to be fantastic. Welcome to the Majors and the Predator to start off the season here at the Fuji International Speedway. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone watching around the world. My name is Jake Sperry. Alongside me in the booth for this one is both Joey Atterbury and Robert Covey. Down on the pits for today's action with microphone in hand is going to be an absolutely sensational broadcast that's going to be there for Fen Woodruff, as well as Daniel Costello directing, with cameras provided by Dougie Beard. But when we sit with the Majors, there is always that element of anticipation that this is a season that can go a million different ways. But this circuit has proven that a million different opportunities often have a million different solutions. Let's get an understanding of what makes Fuji so great. Our GSRC track guide will show you how.
Welcome to Fuji International Speedway. Built right at the foot of the picturesque Mount Fuji and a mere 1.5-hour drive southwest of Tokyo, it certainly resides in a prime location. Having been around since 1967, this place is perhaps most well known for its presence in the classic video game Pole Position. However, its modern incarnation looks nothing like it did back when that game came out in 1982. At just under 3 miles, or 4.5 kilometers, its two layouts have 14 and 16 turns, which is significantly more than what it started with. Without the banking that used to be a part of the first and final corners, its most notable feature nowadays is the front stretch that covers nearly a full mile. The turns that make up the other half of the track make for quite a technical challenge. It includes everything from the long sweeper of 100R to the tight confines of hairpin, to the finicky back and forth of nets. This place hosted Formula One back in the 70s and again in the later 2000s, but it has a much stronger history hosting endurance racing. Sports cars are still a heavy staple here. That's not to say open-wheelers don't still call this place home, though. Lower-level formulas, as well as Japan's popular Super Formula, make frequent visits. From humble origins in SimRacing's history to arriving 40 years later on iRacing, Fuji has been a fan favorite for a long time.
In the shadow of Mount Fuji, Japan, this was the circuit that hosted both of the finishes to the cycling Olympic races, both on the road for both road race and time trial. This a track here in Oyama and the Shizuoka prefecture that just oozes out an amazing race circuit, Joey.
And we are doing the no chicane version of Fuji International Speedway here. So the big-time passing opportunity down into Daiichi Corner there, also known as Turn 1. You have huge momentum from that long front straightaway, and then some really neat elevation changes throughout this entire track. Really, the first sector, once you get out of that slow hairpin, it is foot to the floor, very fast and flowing. The hairpin, also known as Turn 6, a good passing opportunity, especially with the mixed class racing. I expect to see a lot of the prototypes diving down to the inside there on the production cars. And then Dunlop Corner over there, turn number 10, is going to be a very, very fast right-hand kink. We're not going to do that little chicane that you see there. So it's going to be a fast flowing corner, which I think is actually better for the multi-class stuff that we are going to see here. But then the last few corners on this racetrack, 11, 12, 13, 14, also known Panasonic Corner up there, the very final one, it is slow and tedious uphill through there. Very, very different than the first 2/3 of this racetrack.
Yes, it's a case of Jekyll and Hyde in terms of this circuit, or if you prefer, Charles Dickens' A Tale of Two Cities in terms of what makes this circuit go, and the new updates that were brought to bring it up to standard from where it was all the way back in the 1990s. Now, this is a very different format to what most people are expecting when it comes to racing as we go through. And Rob, I think the biggest understanding is what makes the Predator format the format of choice today.
Well, yeah, this is the first race of the major series, 90 laps, GTPs, LMP2s, and GT3s. Open setups, drive-through penalty at 30, one spare car. And if you've done endurance racing and you've done multi-class, you know GT3s will try and let a GTP through, or an LMP will try or let an LMP2 through. This is Predator. There are no forgivings here. You get a GTP up on you, you can't block him, but you don't have to make it easy for him, because the main thing they want to do here is they want to be the first to the finish line. Could be a GT3.
That's going to be really important. And I think it's important to know that it's a staggered start. So effectively, this is a handicap race. The GT3s will go first. The LMP2s will then set off at a declared increment point, and then the GTPs will go at a declared point after the LMP2s. So that in theory, all three of the classes will be on the same lap, fighting for the victory come the end of this race. And in terms of what that increment is, it's been revised. So GT3s will start off without any troubles. LMP2s are down at a 12 3/4 minute disadvantage at the start of this race to conduct 90 laps worth of racing here, Joey. And then on top of that, the GTPs are being held by a further 4 3/4 minutes. So it takes them 17.5 minutes before they can set off.
It's a pretty cool idea, the whole Predator format, and we're used to seeing everybody take the green flag at the same time, and right, the prototypes run away. Well, the math, we just simply do it backwards, and the GT3 start first, then the LMP2s, like you were saying, at a later time, and they will catch the GT3s, and then the GTPs will start at the end and essentially catch all of the classes. But the math, how it works out, is everybody should cross the start-finish line at the checkered flag at the same time. So like what Robert was saying, you don't have to let these other classes by. You're fighting for that overall position, because whoever crosses the flag first wins the race.
Doesn't matter which class, it only matters that you reach a brilliant conclusion here in terms of the racing. Just 15 seconds then remain of warm-up. The last tech being put into setups and understanding of what they need out of their machinery before they go. And of course, we're in a full GT3 class spec as we see one of the beautiful BMWs there of Jeff Schmeier making his way to the pits, as we now find ourselves in pit formation, and we will soon learn and understand who is gridded up where in terms of class. So that is going to be the important port of call. Do not expect those in the certain divisions to get themselves going forward. But what we can say is that it is Jesper Eriksson who is the fastest then at the moment and has got that sorted then overall, with Melvin Orkerson alongside for company. Sam Harper and Tom Dreiling, Howes Row 2, and the last of the 5 cars out there who are in your Premier GTP category will be Michael Hagstrom. Martin Persson will lead the first of the LMP2s with Garen Batten, Edward Shelley, Ray Partridge, and Travis Henderson, Rob.
Then in row 6, we have Tom Guest alongside Kenneth Reeder. Jason Willett sets up beside Ernie Ludwig in row 7. Then we have Patrick Kopp and Rob Courtney in row 8. Daniel Blomqvist, Oscar Fredrickson in row 8, in row 9. Daniel Homer in 19th alongside David H. Baker in 20th is the first of the GTPs. GT3, sorry.
Here in 21st position, Marcus Stromberg. And then in 22nd here is going to be Jacob Hyde. Hakan Schutt in 23rd. Adam Fraccaponti in 24th. Jeff Schmeier in 25th. Simon Broughton in 26th. Jeff Cardamone in 27th. Joshua Hampton 28th. Mike Golightly 29th. And in 30th back here is Gary Thomas.
The rest then of the GT3 category goes through Daniel Salim Howard, Wolf Dietrich Hotto, the German, Lynn Kinchlow, James Dean, Matt Gelder there in 35th, and Michael Hogg in 36th position. Mark Redeker, Jan Bruni, Stephen Mioch, and Craig Hawkins making up the 40 cars that are racing here in Atlantic Split here today. It's important they're on a rolling start. Only the GTs are going to be going off of this initial get-go. And what is so crucial about this, it is track temperature 34 degrees. I'd say it's in the Goldilocks zone. It is almost absolutely perfect. We will wait for the green flag to drop to see who is going to get the most important launch as they go forward. At the front, David H. Baker will have control of this field in his AMG Mercedes. It is then following Porsche, Ferrari, Porsche, BMW and Porsche. The Porsches look strong here today. They're getting ready for the drop on the green flag, and it's now finally pace away. We are underway. The Predator race has started. Start the clock down because the chase is going to be on for all those around here, Rob, in terms of this race as they run to Daiichi Corner.
Yeah, these guys are going to want to get as many laps in as they can. The more they can pull themselves forward, fastest laps, they want to get them in the early runs here before the LMP2s and the GTPs start getting out on track. Hopefully everybody's going to try and stay nice and clean. So far, everybody kind of going single file, just kind of taking their time, but a few movers here right off the bat.
And two struggling in the back. It's Lynn Kinchlow in the Lamborghini and Wolf Dietrich Hotto who's gone around. Now, the worst thing you can have when you're at the start of these races is an incident, because the one thing you want here, Joey, is you want to build a gap. You want to build as much advantage as you can early. It pays to not battle in the early stages.
Absolutely. Remember, you are fighting for positions with your fellow GT3 compatriots out there, but we have yet to see the LMP2s and the GTPs hit the track. So right now, your goal is to run away, and you need to run as fast as possible. Anytime you lose that track position, it's just going to hurt you in the overall chance of getting to that checkered flag first.
Up over the crest of this final section of road to the GR Supra corner that leads to Panasonic. The final corner out on this circuit, and these long sweeping uphill right-handers, which are forever and a day in terms of how you try and navigate around a circuit like this and onto this long front stretch where this is the prime place to get it done. You can see the slipstream that's already happening right now as the likes then of Marcus Strumby is going to be in trouble. That is Huckenhuet who is trying to get through, and Adam Facciaponti just latching on behind is trying to find a way to move through on the inside. There is Strumby who's going to let one go. He's going to let two go here through the opening corner, and that's how quickly you can fall back from 4th to 6th there, Rob.
Yeah, this track can bite you very, very hard if you miss an entry point, or if somebody's in your way and you make the wrong move to get around them. You'll lose a lot, and this is, like I said, this is the opening round. GTPs, they want to get around this track. They don't want to make mistakes, because right now it's easy. Pretty soon there's going to be LMP2s coming out in about 15 minutes, and it's going to get a lot harder and a lot more traffic on this track.
Yes, and it's all about that pace and how much pace that you've got. They are dicing here behind Jeff Schmeier at the moment. Jeff Cardinal, so you've got a battle of Jeff. You've got Seaman Broughton, who's there. Stromby is going backwards, and backwards. That's Gary Thomas, who's now found a way through. And Stromby is absolutely dropping like a stone. And that, I don't think anybody was really expecting off the start of this race, Joey. This has been a struggle street here as everyone has been falling pretty much into rank and file.
Well, and you see that blue number 36 that we just had on the screen. You're right, just falling. I'm seeing down 8 positions, started up there on the front row in P2, so early problems. And this is some of the BMWs and some of the GT3 cars a little bit further back in the field that had their early offs, but now they've got things collected. This is the 32 of Wolf Dietrich Hoto as we look at a move going on down the front straightaway.
Yeah, Daniel Salim Howard there in the Dog Bear bike car is certainly hoping that one of those overtakes is going to make it happen. Stromby, again on that outside, doesn't really have anything to argue with and falls through. I wonder if we can get a chance to look at the back of Lynn Kinchlow's machinery, his Lamborghini at the moment, because he is very much missing the rear clip. The exhaust completely exposed at this moment in time. Here's the good look at it then, Rob, going down the hill. Look at it, it's completely chalked up.
Well, Lynn is a fighter, and I mean, he will fight. He will probably run this car until he has to stop for fuel. And keep in mind, these guys are going to have to put pit stops in this as well with all of this traffic out on track. So it could get pretty chaotic coming out of the pits there once we get all 3 classes running here. But yeah, Lynn is a fighter, and he will try and control that car as best he can. He doesn't like to lose spots, and he doesn't really like to be in the back of the pack.
No, he doesn't really want to. He's just had a slide as well as we focus on Stephen Mioch at this moment and then trying to really drive forward. This is the first time he really gets a chance to talk with Fen Woodruff, who's down in pit lane, as it looks like there's a few troubles there for Jeff Cardamore, who finds himself across the circuit. Fen, it's going to be a really tough day for those drivers to have to make early stops.
That definitely is. For those who are going to be off the pit cycle, going to be end up putting them out by themselves, so losing that draft. As they try to make up those positions they missed from spins and incidents. So definitely going to be a work cut out for them as they're getting through this race.
And now taking a couple laps to get into momentum. This is where it's going to get really, really important as the searches on that front straight continue. Daniel Salim Howard has Marcus Stromby for company, who looks again on that outside line, isn't going to be able to make that move, but you can say here very firmly that the slide has stopped over the course of this race, Joey, and that's going to mean that Stromby is in a position where I think he'll gain that confidence as goes on. David H. Baker, your current race leader, 7/10 the gap over Jacob Hyde, who has made some good progress in that Ferrari. A little bit of a wide line going forward, but doing a good service at the start.
Yeah, he's doing a nice job here, and it's really these two starting to stretch it out over Hawken in the number 101 car. So they are doing what they need to. They're not battling, right? They are just running away like we talked about earlier, giving each other the best shot as what looks like we're going to get a shot of the replay. This is the initial start going down here into turn number 1. Watch this Lamborghini get onto the inside here, get into that Mercedes, and from here, Wolf Dietrich Hoto collects them in the back end. Really just an innocent bystander in that BMW, that white and green car on the outside.
Yeah, and Fen, it's so easy for that to happen where you can just very easily just blink into the opening corner of the race and suddenly you're facing the wrong way.
Yes, especially if you go in there, brake too hard, and lock up any of those tires, even with that ABS, and just get that car unsettled as a result from all those clicking. It just may take your car and put it in a spot you don't want it to be. Then you're into somebody's door and spun around.
Adam Thatcher-Ponte with the fastest lap of the race. The Evolve SimSports Atlantic car searching down to the inside, looking for a move. Håkan Hwett on the outside is going to maintain position, but it's going to be a scrap to Coca-Cola corner. It's a one-line Suitzel, and there you can see that driver etiquette coming into play, Robert, early. Adam Thatcher-Ponte backing it off of the brakes and deciding, I'm not going to fight you into a closed-style corner that turn 3 is.
Well, and the main thing is they do have a spare car. There is a spare car here for these drivers, but again, these are just the GTPs out here right now. If you've ran endurance, you know how sometimes the LMP2s, GTPs can kind of be bullies. Everybody's going to want to preserve their car because it's going to be chaos, especially at this track in such tight corners. Throwing the LMP2s in there, GTPs that's so fast on the straightaways. Drivers are not going to want to use that faster pair if they don't have to.
No, that is absolutely true, and they're going to have to be alert to that first pit stop to not have it accidentally checked. Mioch right behind as they go through the Dunlop corner. Jan Bruni at this moment in time. The chase is very much on at this point, up the hill through these long off-camber corners, always looking to search for an angle here to attack. And these corners here, Joey, they absolutely lend themselves to, I'll take a wider line, I'll compromise my entry, I'll gain an exit, and you can do it over and over and over again. It's like folding laundry. You always get a better, easier fold the longer that you fold.
And it seems that you constantly do the over-unders to get that advantage on the corner exit of anybody that you're battling in front of you. And you're right, 100%. However, if you leave the door open too far, here we go. Here comes this pass from Miak on the number 88 Porsche, and he decides to actually bump draft them a little bit going down here into turn 1, so they are running away as well. But to talk about that last series of corners, you can do the over-under. If you leave the door open too wide, though, Jake, you can often find a car sneaking up the inside.
It's so easy to do, and we've seen that time and time again, that a car can just ever so quickly rush on away through, find that overtake, and you just blink and you don't quite know where that's happened. Michael Hogg finds himself on the defense in the baby metal car. It's the frontline motorsport machine of James Dean that's looking to try and be on the back of this one there, with Wolf Dietrich Hotto making his recovery. In the middle of this one is the German. In front of them, everywhere you look, there are small pockets of battles that are sort of forming at the moment, but that etiquette, as we've said, has always been there. Rob, these early stages, these are a feeler process, and you can argue to some extent that this is the toughest class to win in the GT3s, because you're spending the longest time on circuit, you've got the longest amount of time to make mistakes.
Definitely, your tires are, these guys their tires are going to be starting to burn off. They're using up their fuel. The cars are going to get loose. They're battling for position. They're doing all this, and the race, for all intents and purposes, the race hasn't even started yet. They don't have to look in their mirror except for the driver behind them. They don't have to look for, just look forward. But I believe the count is about 2 more minutes, and we're going to be having the LMP2s coming out of the pits. They're all getting staged right now. They're going to be coming out shortly, and they are going to throw a ton of chaos into these guys, because they're going to come out with the exact same feeling. I want to get up front, I want to get around these cars, and I want to win this race.
Miok making the pass on Bruni. Bruni there down the hill through turn 2 and over the chute. Is going to look here at the outside in his Porsche into turn 3. The Mercedes takes a beautiful line through, and Jan Bruni can't do anything about Stephen Miok. So Miok is able to maintain position. This now becomes a group of 5 through 300R, or 100R I should say, and up towards the Advan corner out on circuit. So that's going to be crucial in terms of their races that start their construction at the moment. Now, what is going to be key is the lap advantage here, Joey, that they're going to have. They're already on lap 7, looking towards lap 8. If I told you that you could have an 8-lap head start on all your opponents out there in the race, you'd take it every day of the week.
Well, yes and no, Jake. You got to look at the math first, right? But that's the whole cool idea about this Predator format. Yes, these GT3 cars have been running for 7 laps. Click it over to lap 8 right now, like you were saying. Yeah, you'll take that advantage, but remember how much faster those prototype cars are, and then that comes into that point that Robert was making earlier pre-race. You can battle these guys. Remember, 7 laps ahead. That's a lot of times these prototypes have to go by you that you can slow them up.
Yes, and it'll be one corner here and one corner there that you expect to really chalk things up. But we've seen a lot of comfort over the balance of performance of the GT3 category itself here, Rob, with the Porsches. They are definitely the most populous out there. A number of AMGs, not so many Ferraris. So where is the idea in terms of where everyone's going as Daniel Salim Howard takes a big wide line going through at Coca-Cola corner?
Well, with Fuji in the really, really tight corners, I mean, the Porsche is a bit of an advantage. Short wheelbase can really, really cut those corners. You kind of got to take the corner a little wider with the Mercedes, as we just got the 30-second call for LMP2s to be coming out. So we're going to see those cars coming out on the track here in about another 20 seconds.
And I think what's crucial there about where they are going to come out in comparison is that David H. Baker is going to make a run on the front stretch. So that's going to be the focus where David H. Baker's going to go. Here's Adam Thatcher-Ponte. He's through on Hook and Wet. He's now up into third position now. And I think we're just about to get the call. Yes, they're now going to rush off the LMP2s and the mad scramble out of the pits to get themselves off and away. Garen Batten, Ed Shelley, and then in the front, Martin Persson is going to lead them all off, and their chase begins, and it will be effectively almost 9 laps, because look at where David H. Baker plonks himself in. He plonks himself right into play at about 5th in line of those LMP2s here, Joey, that are going to start flying.
And I tell you the truth, if I am David Baker right now, I'm a little worried. You just saw this entire LMP2 car class feed out onto the racetrack, but you are in front of the majority of them. Remember, the GT3 cars, they're up to speed, they're up to temperature, they are in the heat of things, while these prototypes, they are just getting up to speed. I'd be a little bit worried about what's in my mirror.
I'd be worried as well. There is the number 4 car of Martin Persson, who leads the category at this moment with Ed Shelley, Garen Batten, Ray Partridge is there just behind as well. He did the most laps out there in Sims, so when it came to pre-qualifying, he was certainly up there. I am going to throw it over down towards pit lane to Fen Woodruff, because this is a really important phase of the race. Now, Fen, a number of these drivers would have waited for 2, 3, 4 minutes in the pit lane looking to get themselves ready. How long will they have been idling on their engines and burning that fuel?
My guess is probably not very much, unless they have all that turned off or set to auto on. My guess is they probably sit outside of the car, let it sit there in pit lane off, waiting, and then hop into it about that 30, 45-second mark. So hopefully they're not burning too much fuel and throwing off their pit stop rhythm versus everybody else in the class. But
here's the mad scramble as they look to charge on by. You've got likes of Daniel Blomqvist here, who's trying to make progress. Jason Wallot as well is looking to try and get through. Now, they're very even on the top end here, Rob, on the straight. The issue that they're running into, of course, is look at all the downforce that they've got. They've got a huge advantage when it comes down through. Here's a bit of GT battling going on a little bit further down the straight. So the chance is on for Matt Gelder to make the pass on Jeff Cardamone. So is this going to be the chance to see that work? And the answer is no, it's covered off.
Yeah, you can see he backed out of it there. It looked like he backed out of it a little bit there. But just back to your point with the downforce on these LMP2s and the GTPs, which will be coming out soon, there's a lot of slow corners here at Fuji, and the downforce doesn't help you. These cars can get really, really loose on power in the slower corners. And it's going to be a handful trying to deal with these GT3s, move ahead of them, and gain that position and make this a race when we get down to lap 89 and 90.
Yeah, the 2-minute warning has just been given for the next category. Almost a bit of argy-bargy there. That's Ernie Ludwig holding back Oscar Friedrichsen and Daniel Holmer. Friedrichsen right up to the inside, and no surprises there on the fast lap by Martin Persson. He gets it not quite secure because, of course, you got 2 teams out there together going for it. Jason Wallot trying to give as much slipstream as possible to Ernie Ludwig, and look at how it pays off. Back into line you go.
Fredrickson is following Ludwig, and here we go. He's going to poke the nose down into turn 1 really late on the brakes from the number 21. He does get the car stopped, and then you see his teammate back here. That's Daniel Homer also trying to take advantage. When the door opens, put your foot in there.
Yeah, and just like that, he will take command through the Coca-Cola corner and will make sure that that place is very much his. So no arguments there. That is what you call a beautiful bit of work in the early goings here of this one. Still some GT action to try and secure. Wolf Dietrich Hotto now finds himself with Jan Bruni, and Bruni, oh, Hotto's gone way too deep. Bang, that's a heavy bit of contact. Stephen Mioka, bystander, Rob.
Yeah, that just miscalculation there. Just didn't have it. Fortunately, it doesn't look like a lot of damage to either one of them. They kind of got away with it. But now they're going to really have their hands full being right there, and with the GTPs coming out, I believe, in about 20 seconds, and chaos will ensue.
Well, that's how quickly it can go wrong there, Joey. It's a case of you miss your braking point. Such a long wait to find your braking point. You can sometimes very easily, on a straight as long as that one, forget.
Yeah, well, and not only that, but if you're battling side by side or if you're tucked up into the draft, you not only forget your brake marker, but you can just go flying right by it because you don't have the visual cues that you're used to out there. And what I'm surprised about, I don't see really any front-end damage on the front end of that number 32 of Wolf Dietrichotto after plowing into that Mercedes. So I think he got away with one, but he's definitely been one of the more aggressive cars on the racetrack, as it looks like we officially have our GTPs out there.
Yes, so Michael Hagstrom didn't get the memo off the start, so he went off ahead of everybody else, and I think that he's parked the car because of it. So then you've got the likes of Tom Dreiling, Sam Harper, Melvin Orkerson, and Jesper Eriksson. So it's only the 4 that will look to try and give the chase, and there is a black flag penalty for Matt Gelder. So here we go. There is a drive-through penalty, maybe a stop and hold here, Fen, for one of the GT3s out there in this race.
Yes, and I'm still trying to figure out what happened to cause that. But he is currently going through pit lane, pulling into his pit stop. It is a stop and hold, trying to figure out what time he can make back up at this point.
Well, it might have been a slowdown penalty. I would have been very shocked if already at this early stage of the race he'd have hit 30 instant points. That's only a drive-through, so a stop and hold. That is a huge slam dunk in terms of the race. There is car number 4, Martin Persson at the moment, 7 laps down officially on the race leader. Chase very much on to try and go through. Now 127.7 was his time last time out. That is the equivalent of being 10 seconds a lap quicker than David Baker, who's now got a 2-second advantage at this moment in time, because look at how it closes up 2nd and 3rd, and then the group behind that 4th, 5th and 6th. This is Seaman Brothen who is trying to make the pass here, Joey. He's got Jeff Schmeier in the sights.
Yeah, he's just right in that slipstream chasing the BMW here. I don't think the Porsche is going to be quite close enough. You see him poke the nose down, just present the car to the inside mirror. That number 30 right there in front of him. Just try to force him off the line, whatever he can. But honestly, right in front of Schmeier, that number 30 car, we got the number 101 of Hawkins. So I feel like these are 3 cars that now, with all of the prototypes kind of on the racetrack, might be feeling that, hey, I kind of want the track position and I want to get around you.
Yeah, that's going to be key. Now, let's do a little bit of mental math here for a second, Rob, in terms of what the chase is going to be and how quickly drivers are going to need to catch. So we're talking about 10 seconds a lap here at the front, 10 seconds a lap, times that by how long it takes to go around, so 127 to 137, you could roughly say that's about 8 laps. You times that by the laps needed to pull back, which is 7, that would be 56 laps from now until they reach the lead lap at this moment in time. That's the chase. There is car number 61 looking to try and make something happen. Garen Batten right now, he focuses on 2nd in his class, trying to find a way past Edward Shelley.
Well, and the thing to remember is this is the major series. These are open setups, so these guys aren't all running the same. Some of them are going to have high downforce, some of them are going to have low. They're going to be able to take advantage of those, those faster classes in front of them, really pull the draft depending on how low they want to run that wing and how low they're running the car. To your point there, the GTPs, so Jesper Eriksson's ran a 124, so that is 4 seconds, about 3 to 4 seconds faster than the LMP2s. They are showing right now 10 laps down. So they're going to have to get a move on if they want to go and they want to catch up and grab those LMP2s and then make a run for the GT3s.
Yep, so that's going to be crucial. Jesper Eriksson right now doing 124.2s at this moment, so he's 4 seconds a lap quicker than Martin Persson going around this. So you've got to put 4 seconds a lap and catch 4 laps on that group. That's going to be rather crucial. Just heard there, Joey, Ed Shelley over the radio. He's not a very happy bunny. He's hoping that the GT3s are able to hold their line in the braking zone. It's making his life very difficult to get by them.
It's multi-class racing, and not only multi-class racing, but I think the desperation of realizing you got to get through the traffic nice and clean if you want to make it to the finish line first, like we've been talking about. So when you are these prototypes, your mission is to be aggressive, but when you have these slower production cars kind of in the way, It makes it difficult to do that, but you have to judge where their racing line is. Remember, a GT3 car can't go at parts of the racetrack that these prototypes can, so you just have to understand where they can and can't go and pass accordingly.
Now, what's going to be crucial in terms of strategy is that the fuel tanks as well are slightly different, and the pit stop lengths are also going to be different as well. So when it gets right down to the nitty-gritty here, Fen, when it comes to those pit stops, we're looking at GT3 probably going to be a little bit longer in terms of this race, in terms of the pit stops compared to everyone else, but they can go longer on their fuel in terms of time.
Yes, they certainly can. Biggest fuel per versus time used, they have the option to definitely make those pit stops where they can in order to maximize their time, maybe pulling a short stint by a lap or two to get out of the way or back in the way of traffic to give them a tow, as well as figuring out when they want to make that final stop before the end of the race to have the tires keep them on the track the longest.
Daniel Blomqvist has a huge group behind. This is Tom Guest and Travis Henderson, who are both trying to make some progress. This is a long season. It's not going to be Predator style races all season as Batten and Shelley continue to chase Joey. This is a long season. It's an all year round season. And on top of that, what makes this difficult is it's a different car track combination each time. This is the series that is a replica of all the great races when it comes to sim racing.
I think that's the main draw of the majors here, is that you get a different race winner almost every single month, or you get somebody that really rises to the top that is just so good all around in the different platforms. It's really cool to see. But you're right, we're going to be road racing here. I'm actually not sure where it goes next month, but basically it goes oval, it goes dirt, it goes open wheel. Everything changes month to month here in the major series.
I believe 500 miles at Daytona sounds like the most logical step for them in February as they charge. Adam Fatcher-Ponti through then into position number 2 with that pass on Jacob Hyde over at Daiichi corner, DGR corner, whatever you want to call it corner, it's a pass. And up through goes Fatcher-Ponti, and comfortably now will need to chase down David H. Baker, who leads this one in the GT field for the time being. The chase is going to be interesting because we've got our first lap then for the LMPs together. So you've got the GTP, so to speak, the prototypes through. It was Ericsson passed Pearson, sorry, which is important because that's one lap down and they only have 2 more to chase down, and that's right in the back of shot as they now start to charge forward as we focus still with Fatcher-Ponti.
Just a little update here. I'm just taking a quick look, trying to get some information. Excuse me. Looks like we're going to get, if they push it, LMP2s are looking at about a 31 lap stint before they're going to need to come in for pits. And I believe the GT3s, again, pushing it, may be able to get off about 43 laps before they have to come in for their pit stops. I'm just trying to see if I can find GTPs, but don't have that information currently.
Well, that will mean a splash and a dash then, which will be needed for all of the GT category machinery out there, and that could be the difference of a minute here in terms of this race. If you haven't had the chance already, you can always check out the Majors Garage, the home of free baseline plus setups. Get help from any of the garage coaches 24/7. Sign up now for awesome, affordable monthly subscriptions, telemetry, coaching, and more by simply clicking on our link in the description below. Also, if you use the special discount code MajorsGSRC, you will get 10% off of what is there for you. So make sure you check out the Majors Garage if you haven't had the chance to already. There is car number 24 making some progress through the field, and slicing and dicing is the key through the long 300 right, and that is Travis Henderson through on Oscar Fredriksson. So there is a little bit of a chase. Fredriksson to the back of this group now. Joey, Tom Guest is also through on the pair.
Yeah, this is kind of an angry little group here. Fredriksson chases Henderson. That's the orange car chasing this kind of blue and purple highlight car. But right in front, you see a third prototype. That is Tom Guest in that number 10, that black and green car. So these 3 prototypes making their way through the GT3 traffic. And let me tell you, coming up through what would be turn number 2 here, these cars had a huge moment with the GT3s. There is no love lost between these classes today.
No, there absolutely won't be, and they are going to be trying to slide on through, gain as much as there is. Here's the attack off the exit then for Oscar Fredriksson as he looks to try and push and make as much momentum as possible here. Rob, Fredriksson on board, you can see 270k. He's actually down in a straight line here compared to the likes of one Mr. Travis Henderson, who's a little bit more streamlined behind Tom Guest. Whoa!
Big moment there. I was actually surprised he didn't catch up on him a little quicker. I'm wondering if he's running a little bit heavy downforce. Maybe he's doing some fuel saving, you know, trying to get as many laps out of this and spend as little amount of time in the pit stop when they do come around as possible. Because I would have thought that, you know, in the slipstream there, he would have gained a lot more momentum and really come up on the back of him there.
Yeah, and they're dealing now with same category lap traffic. That's Rob Courtney that they're all trying to navigate around, and room having to be given by Fredriksson, so never going to be easy. More in front this time. It's going to be Simon Broughton, who is there just in front, heavy up over the curb and up the hill to the Tilke design part of the track. There's the lunge down the inside, and it's going to be almost a bit of argy-bargy as they head up then towards the super corner. Are they going to go either side of the traffic? Oh my goodness me, they are, and round will go the GT, Broughton, sponjoing.
Yeah, that is so unfortunate. A lot of times in iRacing here, you see that prototype around the outside of a GT car. For some reason, it spins the inside GT car around, and that's exactly what we saw there. But it was heavy battling here between Henderson and Fredriksson for what is kind of that P6, P7 position in LMP2. They are starting to catch these GT3 cars. Jake, I'm looking at the laps. Our GT3 leader, lap 19, LMP2, lap 12, and GTP is on lap 9. So those distances starting to close in.
They are starting to shrink a little bit. That much you can't really deny. And there is a look at that's Wolf Dietrich Hotto being overtaken there by one of your leading category cars, Jesper Eriksson, there in the number 37 machine, the leader of the prototypes out there at this stage. Now, his chase is important because it's right now 2.5 laps to chase down for Eriksson. So he is very much going to be alert on how quickly can I go through and make up that time. But Rob, you know, you're looking at this is a hybrid system car, not quite as it is in the real world, but it's an additive hybrid system, very similar to, say, how you would have if you had a KERS button, for example.
Yeah, equivalent to a DRS or a KERS. And I mean, I've driven, I run in another division with the majors, and I was driving the GTP, and it is a handful around here because of the low speed corners. I mean, it's great down the straightaway, but the handling is just really a lot of work with the car. And just back to the point there with the LMP2s and the GT3, the little contact there, you got to remember, unlike normal endurance racing, you know, you'd think the GT3 would be like, oh, okay, well, these guys are battling, I'm going to let them through. No, this is Predator. You can't block, but you don't have to make it easy for them to get around you, which I kind of think he was doing, but unfortunately it just didn't work out in his favor.
So the key here is you don't have to make a defensive line, but you can find yourself in a position where you can run the inside, for example, let the traffic go, and then find your race continuing. That's the sort of understanding that we have. There is Eriksson. Then, as you can see, there is your category right now as it stands for your LMP, or I would say your GTP, your prototype drivers right now. And it's about 9 seconds that Eriksson has of a gap over Åkesson in second, Joey. Harper a further 4.5 seconds back of that. Well spaced, but each driver to their own, giving a good race. Åkesson definitely not out of contention, nor Harper, as here are what the LMP2s look like.
Yeah, right now it is Persson in that number 4 leading that LMP2 race, but actually the race for P2 within that class is pretty close. Edward Shelley in the number 34, number 61 of Garen Batten chasing him right now as they go down into turn number 1. And here's the 24 and the 21. We were watching this battle earlier, Jake. Fredriksson versus Henderson. It is still raging on.
It is, and Henderson is proving that he's got a car set up for the top-end speed. There's nothing Oscar Fredrickson can do except send a Hail Mary over to the inside like he would do on wildcard weekend. Brilliant pass, and he will move up and take that place and use the Titan Technical to try and get away, Rob.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's, you know, again, open setups as we roll over and we look at our GT3s and how they're running right now. David Baker still out front, 2.5 second lead over the rest of the GT3s. Thachapani in second with Hyde in third. Pretty spread out GT3 field, but that's to be expected. You know, again, they don't have to let the faster class through, but I mean, they are going to lose time as the faster class come around them and try and gain and come onto the same lap as the GT3s.
Yeah, that's going to be really crucial, especially here with the Majors racing. It's not just about racing out there for victories and titles and prestige. There's a lot more than that. There is a charity each and every time they race that they look to go and help. This one here over the course of racing this week is for the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. It's a non-profit, volunteer-fueled organisation dedicated to finding cures for Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis, while improving the quality of life of children and adults affected by these diseases. For more information, please check out the link in the description below. Still, we've got great racing here on the brakes into the opening section. Ray Partridge car off the road by, I would say, 3 leagues. That's not going to be very helpful out there for Jeff Cardamone, who finds himself then dropping down the order a bit, Joey.
Yeah, this was a battle between 3 cars, Gary Thomas, Mike Golightly, and Jeff Cardamone. And unfortunately, Jeff Cardamone just kind of blew Dunlop corner down there, so it is separated out a little bit. But this was an angry little bunch. That Ferrari, led by 2 teammate Porsches, now giving chase. I'd keep my eye on this one for sure.
I would. I think this is a really important battle here in the middle of this race. And the more that you start battling, the more that you become unstuck. You almost have to counter-think, see where you can find an opportunity to make strategy pay. And this is where you're going to have to be alert. And I think here, with the difference being 2 laps, you can save 2 laps of fuel per stint. It's a tall order here when you get in terms of what the GTs are looking at, especially in the GT3's Sven. But if they can save 2 laps of fuel and make this a one-stop race, it will help them massively.
Absolutely. If they have the opportunity to find space to where they can just hang out behind a GT3 for a moment for a corner, build up that fuel saving amount, they only have to make a 1-stop pit stop instead of a 2-stopper. It'd make it very easy for them to make a lot of time on these LMP2 and GT3s that are going to have to do 2 stops.
Yep, so that is going to be really, really crucial as they go about it. So this is where they're going to be eyes pretty much on a swivel. Where can I find as much pointage as possible when you consider that they'll be going into Intimidator-style racing next time out? It's not going to be easy to find those points. Big search to the inside from Cardamone. Mike Golightly is not going to go lightly, so to speak, in terms of his defense. And then they leave the door open down the inside. That is Melvin Orkerson, who decides to jump through in the prototype, then making that past second in the prototype. So that is always going to be difficult, is that you sort of have to abandon, Joey, sometimes these battles, because they pretty much lead to, whoops, we've got to sort of let the fast car go through and then we can resume. Speaking of resuming, here comes the side-by-side and the long straight, as Sam Harper will also chase by through.
And you see that prototype leave plenty of room on the inside there. Just didn't want to come into contact with either of these GT3 cars that were already side by side. Looks like Jeff Cardamone will get that position back. He was in front of his teammate Mike Golightly earlier, but he had that off that set him back in terms of that track position. So we'll see if Cardamone can now hunt down Gary Thomas, because they were battling that Ferrari, but Gary Thomas has escaped now about 2.5 seconds up the road.
Yep, and those 2.5 seconds are going to be very difficult to catch back. Now, Rob, they are teammates, but it looks like these 2 teammates aren't in a work-together kind of mode. They're sort of racing against each other, seeing what advantage they can pick up.
Well, I'm listening to a little bit of the chatter on the radio, and I think some team orders might have just come across and said, you know what, let's work together and move ourselves forward. So I think we might see them back off each other a little bit here, because it's one winner, but you definitely want to, there are team points in this, I believe. I'd have to double check the rules for this season, But yeah, definitely, they don't want to be battling each other until at least we come down to, maybe 10 to go, depending on where they're sitting.
Yeah, that's going to be crucial. Here's Daniel Holmer trying to find and overtake in the number 79 car against Travis Henderson. So Henderson, who lost out to Fredrickson a little bit earlier on, now looking back at another teammate there of the Force Esports team. And just like this, Henderson is going to be like, where do I go? Oh, he's going to go straight into the back almost, does he there, of the Ferrari of Josh Hampton. I think he did, and there's a spinner there on the exit. Who was that? Who was lined up in the middle of nowhere? I think that was, that's going to be Patrick Kopp.
Yeah, somebody got into him there, I believe. Heard some chatter on the radio. See if our director can get a replay of that. Heavily damaged car.
Joey, it's not often that you see a machine like that. That's teed and totaled in a section of the track where you don't often see a car teed and totaled.
Well, Robert was talking about it earlier. The prototypes, they like the downforce, and in those final corners of this track, there is no downforce. It is slow and technical through there, so when you need the downforce, it's not there, and lots of times these prototype machines are set up to rely on the downforce, which makes it even more tricky when you go slow.
Blomqvist as well now down into the pits. That's what we saw. So we might be seeing a little bit of strategy starting to bring itself in. Michael Hogg has the black and orange mechanical flag. He's gone in the GT3 class. So the 744 also down in on the lane. Now these drivers aren't out of the race. It affects their strategy here, Fen, but the key is they have to use that fast repair.
Yes, they will definitely have to use those fast repairs when they're coming in to minimize the time that they're going to be sitting in pit road. Also, time to get them set up for the shorter stint that they might have to do for a splash and dash at the end of the race. Could they need it? Now they can take it now and get it out of the way.
They absolutely could, and that could be crucial as there are the two teammates still making that progress. The gap at the front now is down to 6 laps in terms of margin between those in your LMP2 and your GT3 categories. It's now 8 seconds they go through. Now here, Fen, we take a look then at what happens to this dog bear car, and you can see it's all a massive chain reaction. Everyone's trying to find a lane as they go through, down on the inside, and then is this just going to be a case of, oh yeah, just spinning it off the exit?
Yes, just gets spun off the exit, little small bunt, and goes to turn it around, and then just gets smacked off the front end, taking off both of their front ends and spinning that car around a little more seriously. Damage for both of them. Talking about those fast repairs we just talked about, they're going to be using those when they get back to pit lane.
And that's the reason why Daniel Blomqvist was in the pits, because that would have been the fast repair, no doubt about it. And you clip on the front, jump into effectively a T car, and get back out and away again. Still in this race, still with an opportunity to score some important points. And there's car 79, looking to try and make some passes. That's Daniel Holmer, who's got his eyes on Henderson. But it doesn't quite work out here, Joey, because Matt Gelder proves to be a little bit of a thorn in terms of the pass for Henderson, or against Henderson, I should say, heading through the Dunlop corner.
Yeah, you see the number 24 of Travis Henderson with heavy pressure here. As Daniel Holmer, like Jake was saying, and this is the slow, tedious section of the racetrack. Got to keep it nice and underneath you here, but it's all about this last corner exit out of Panasonic. You see both of them swing way out wide, try to maximize this drive off, and actually, I'm looking at Daniel Holmer right now. He had a tremendous run off. Let's see what the downforce levels are like. See if Henderson can hold him off on the straight line. It might be why Henderson is struggling so much elsewhere in the racetrack is because he just doesn't have the downforce levels, the grip, because look at the top end speed the car has.
It's got a lot. It has an absolute boatload of top speed. And Travis Henderson defends another one at turn 1. It's not necessarily the end of the world here, Robert, if you run with a lower downforce setup to other drivers. You often say you want to qualify with a little bit more higher downforce than you want to run in the race.
Well, you got to remember, too, I mean, the tires are going to wear out. The car's going to get slippy, slidey. And you know, again, it's just got to keep bringing up that point is these cars like downforce. They will give you a lot of grip, except in those slow corners. And you can see how wide, I don't know if he's taking those corners wide by choice or just because he's running such little downforce for those straightaways. He just doesn't have that front end grip to really cut those corners off.
Yeah, and not having the grip to cut the corners, they are now going to have to try and cut through, not lapped traffic, but the traffic at this moment to try and make sure that they are dicing through effectively side by side. They will trade some paint coming up through the Toyota GR Supra corner, and now it's going to be a case of where do you lunge down the inside. Holmer's going to compromise the run. They lead the GT3s on the outside, Gary Thomas and Jeff Cardamone. So they managed to navigate a way through, but that is a crucial pick and go, a pick and roll, as it were, Joey, to get Daniel Holmer through.
Well, and it's nice to check back in on this battle with Cardamone, because remember, he had lost touch with that Ferrari. So he has reeled Gary Thomas back in, hunted down that 2.5-second gap as we continue to watch these prototypes dive down into, this is actually the car number 8 over here. This is Fredrickson and Partridge now. So Fredrickson has left his old buddies and continued his climb.
And that puts him 4th in class with that pass. Ray Partridge has had a very quiet race up to this point, and he finally has to wake up under the shadow of Mount Fuji and realise, oh, hey-oh, that is Oscar Fredrickson comfortably making that pass. Rob, it's so easy just to fall into a hot lap rhythm when you're out there in the race and Sam Harper sets the fastest lap, but you have to switch on and wake up when the traffic effectively gets to you and you're in battles in class.
Well, yeah, we saw that earlier with, those 2 LMP2s coming up on the GT3s. It's just, use them as a pick. Get them, get around your competitor. Use those GT3s as a pick. Get him stuck behind you as we ride on board with the 20 here.
It's for the lead. You can see that, that's David H. Baker, your overall race leader, just in front. On the side, Rob Courtney's going to have to try and dance through both of them. Now, Thatcher Ponte's not going to be too pleased that Courtney is struggling to clear them at this moment in time, and that is going to be painful. Behind that, though, here's a bit more side-by-side that goes through. Jeff Schmeier finds out that Håkan Schwett is not going to give up without a fight, but that is 4th place for Schmeier's BMW, which is looking good in the long run here, Joey.
Yeah, go down here into turns 2 and 3. The BMW secures that position, so now the number 101 is going to have to deal with the prototype fast approaching around the outside. Look at all of that extra grip, all of that aero downforce that the prototypes get to play with, and this is that number 8 car once again, Ray Partridge. Remember, Fredrickson got around him just a lap ago, but now he's got the mirrors full once again. It's Tom Guest this time.
Yeah, and Guest is looking to make himself very welcome as he hits onto the brakes into the Dunlop corner, unable to use that as an opportunity. The battered machine of Lynn Clinchlow next, but you've still got the Ferrari out there, one of the Fusion Ferraris, then as the next port of call, and it will be a very important race out there at this moment for this piece of machinery. Down the hill, Mike Golightly will look around in front of him. It's Gary Thomas is 19 right now, and just in front, that's Jeff Cardamone, who has made the move on this lap in through turn 1 and has comfortably gained that extra spot here, Rob.
Yeah, good pace right now. He's very, very comfortable. He's got kind of open track here, can really settle down and let the car go. Maybe open up as much of a gap as he can. As we look at, Gary Thomas there, he's going to have Mike Golightly in his mirrors a little bit. I'm sure these teammates want to try and hook themselves back up. I think Cardamone just had a little bit of a moment, lost some of his momentum, but gaining on Braithen here, see if he can get that position back.
That extra place is going to be worth its weight in gold if it can be found out there on circuit. There is the number 20 machine of Adam Thatcher Ponte, and just in front, again breaking up the overall race lead battle, is Oscar Fredrickson, who will make his way through and charge on forward. So that's always going to be the focus, trying to get through. The pick made just behind her. Ray Partridge has just lost his place to Tom Guest, and he's vocal about it on the radio because he's had a bit of contact with the Ferrari there of Jacob Hyde, who was trying to stay out of the way of the car in front, didn't realise the car alongside it.
Just your typical inter-class kerfuffle out there, and there's a lot of stuff going on the racetrack. Sometimes you can't avoid it all, and this is kind of the result of it. You see Ray Partridge lose that position to Tom Guest, but trust me, folks, there's plenty of racing still to come. You don't know everybody's destiny yet.
No, you really don't here. On lap 29 of 90, we're about to hit the 1/3 distance in this race, and officially in this race. Craig Hawkins has become the first of the GT3 category cars to fall behind an LMP2, as Martin Pearson has gone through quite a while ago now and made his way through. Hawkins has had some troubles. He is now 5 laps down on your overall race leader as it stands, Rob.
Yeah, just get a replay here. Craig Hawkins. Let's see what we got happening here. Oh, just lost the rear end, just tried to come in too hot. The car did not want to, rear end didn't want to hold on that turn. Good save on the car.
It might continue here. Does he double it up? No, he's all right. Fen, that's something that can so easily happen. You sort of struggle, you try and gather back all that time, and then you're over-aggressive.
Yes, and you're overcommitting to things, trying to make up the time that you've lost and end up causing more incidents for yourself, whether that be off tracks or full-on spins, as we saw earlier, trying to make up that time. And we're going back to a battle here.
We are. Here is the 101. This is Håkan Wett, who is now looking to try and get back at Jeff Schmeier's BMW. Such an interesting BMW, Joey, this one, because this is the BMW in terms of GT3 that used SimRacing as its tool of development before it went out and broke ground on circuits.
Yeah, it's pretty cool that a lot of these manufacturers are turning to the virtual racetrack to not only help development, but kind of get the product in the hands of the consumer, build hype around it, because remember, not only is the manufacturer collecting virtual data that could potentially transfer over to the real world, but you're also creating fans of your car. So I think that's the big selling point, is get it out there into the virtual racers' hands and they fall in love with it before anything else.
Now, Fen, that's Adam Thatcher-Ponte down into the pits. This is scheduled and is going to be a dedicated 2-stop.
Yes, and that's the first stop. We'll probably see the rest of the GT3s filtering in over the next few laps for the first of their 2 mandatory stops that they will have to make in order to make the end of this race. What's going to be interesting is what fuel saving they can do in between these 2 to minimize that second stop.
Yeah, and there you can see also traversing down in through the pits is one of the Fusion Ferraris that is also going to make some progress. I have just spotted a car around. That's Rob Courtney, one of the LMP2s that has gone around as well. But there is the Fusion car down in on the lane. That's Gary Thomas also making that call to split this one up evenly, Rob, 30-30-30.
Yeah, we got some of the details as to what we're looking at for pit stops. We're looking at about 2 stops for the GT3s. So, you know, cut it into 45 laps. They've run 31, so I'm kind of curious how that works out. These are only estimates we got currently, but looking at 3 for the LMP2 and another 2 for the GTP, which, you know, you're going to make those LMP2s fall back a little bit, having to do 1 extra pit stop.
Yeah, and that's something else here, Joey, that we're going to be seeing. Those on a 2 versus those on a 1, because those on a 2-stop strategy, you'd feel, are going to be able to be more aggressive.
Yeah, you feel it, and I can't wait to see how it all plays out, because I've got the table here, and it clearly shows GT3 is going to have to make 2 stops here, so exactly as we predicted, lap 30, and then the second stop will come at probably about lap 60 to 65, kind of somewhere in there, and that will be their 2 stops to get them all the way to the end. However, with the LMP2, they do burn a little bit more fuel. However, they started, 12 minutes later. So I'm curious, are they actually going to have to do 2 stops, or are they going to have to do 3? And judging by the math of them coming down right now, it's going to be probably 2, but very close.
Well, 25, 50, 75, that's indicating here it's going to be 3 stops for Ernie Ludwig and Jason Wallot here, Fen. So it looks like LMP2s are stuck in a different style of debate, 2 or 3 stop.
Yes, it's whether or not they want to fuel save, make up time. We have a piece missing on the track there, and what they will be able...
Dreiling.
Yeah, just fully off. What they will be able to do with that LMP2.
Tom Dreiling, and I think Hotto maybe was caught up. Craig Hawkins was definitely caught up in the middle of that. So that there for Tom Dreiling, that's one of your LMP1s that was the 4th place running prototype out there in the field. So that was never going to be good. So Tom Dreiling finds out what it's like to not have a rear wing. You can see him just there in the back trying to dice and maneuver his way forward into the pit. So dramas definitely befalling those. As Fen, we're going to take a look here at the GSRC replay and see exactly how this all goes kaboom. Well, this is where it's going to start going wrong. Oh, look at that, Joey.
Yeah, I think the GT3 just expected him to have a little bit more momentum on exit out of that corner, and wasn't there, and got into the back of him and spun him around.
Yeah, that was a little bit earlier. That was Courtney's issue out there on circuit. So that was the troubles there, Rob, that happened a little bit earlier on. Courtney's having a miserable race at this moment, just getting caught from pillar to post, it seems at the moment. That was the number 33 machine that was also caught in the middle of that as well, and that would have been your overall leader, David H. Baker. So Baker getting caught up in instance he really doesn't want to. He's got 5-second margin here at the front of this field, but if he continues to get caught up in instance like that, Joey, it's going to be a long race.
Yeah, and I think, you know, his front end looks good, so I think he's okay, and maybe just a little bit of minor adjustment he'll have to make on his next pit stop as we look at another replay here. And I believe this is Dreiling and Hawkins.
Yeah. Ben, this is not ideal in terms of the situation. Look how quickly it's going to go.
Yeah, it just gets in the back end and just slides off. Ends up.
It looks like he might have checked up for that GT3 that was off track there.
It's entirely possible. The GT3
also got caught in the barriers there, did that GT3 of Craig Hawkins.
It certainly did.
So very much finding out that those barriers are made of solid concrete. You can't just drive through them. They are absolutely cemented down, it seems, today, which means that nobody's going to be taking that chicane, whether they want to or otherwise. There's David Baker making the pass on Wolf Dietrich Hotto to put him 2 laps down in this race at the moment. The margin 5 laps at the front of this field, and remember that gap was about 8 laps to begin with, and that was always going to be mighty close. It's going to be a very firm fought race here in terms of who gets there to the end. Under the shadow of Mount Fuji here in Shizuoka Prefecture, Japan, it's a case of who can chase down who and who can chase who as quickly as possible here, Rob.
Yeah, it's really, you know, and this is where, you know, the pit stops are going as we look at Craig Hawkins just spinning around, and then we see the, you know, I don't know whether or not he made him check up there on the replay, but yeah, definitely Craig Hawkins, heavy hit into those little barriers. Maybe thought he could drive through them. I don't know.
Some you can, some you can't, but I suppose the more modern the scan is with iRacing, the more likely you're going to get a fixed feature, and that is as fixed feature as it possibly can. Mike Golightly down in the pits. We focus with your number 4, Martin Persson, leader of the category of LMP2, and is certainly looking to try and go through. Joey, I never knew you left, but you're back, and here is where Persson really is trying to make some progress up, and he has managed to pull out a very nice gap over Shelley of about 15 seconds.
Yeah, sorry about that, Jake, but when you're up early commentating sim racing, sometimes nature calls over here. But you're right, you know, we're getting along very nicely. I'm also seeing that we just had a retirement from Craig Hawkins from the race. That's the number 38 out of the GT3 class cars. Also, a lot of these GT3s cars, from what I'm seeing, have yet to pit yet. And you guys were talking about that pit strategy earlier. It'll be really curious between the 2 stops, the 3 stops, how it all plays out in the GTPs.
Yeah, so that has been very much telling as well, because you've got Jesper Eriksson as well, Melvin Åkesson. What will they do by comparison? As it looks like drivers are making decisions. Can they get by? Can they not? The one thing we haven't really talked about here today, Rob, is pit entry. It's very difficult out here because it's that sliding right, left. You have to stay in between the lines. It's very easy if you get caught up behind a slower piece of traffic when you come down into the pits, that you can run straight into the back of them.
Well, yeah, and I mean, both ends of this pit, you know, both entry and exit. I mean, if you've got somebody coming up on you and you want to pit, you know, you got to try and let them know you're going to do that, or you got to stay as far right as you want, because you can get run over. And same thing there, we saw the, you know, just as we watched the overtake here from Fatchapani, you know, pit exit is right at the end of the straightaway where cars are coming in, hitting brakes really hard, and you don't want to compromise them, but you do want to get yourself out on track in front of them.
merge point is going to be really important. That was Marcus Stromby losing the place out there as Tom Dreiling slips through on Adam Facciaponti. Now remember, Facciaponti has come in and made a pit stop. He's committed to a 2-stop here in the GT3s, Joey. Now this is where it gets really crucial because he needs to attack 37.7 on that last lap. Compare that to David H. Baker, who he was up against, 37.8. It's not making a difference.
No, but I think when we look at the two different strategies of Facciaponti pitting that earlier, kind of evenly splitting up that laps as we watch some of these prototypes now hit pit lane, it's going to come down to that fuel fill time, Jake. Now, if the lap times are identical, that just means technically they would pop out on the racetrack at the same point if the fuel fill times were the same. However, which car is going to save more in this course of the strategy, that will dictate how long you're going to be in pit lane.
It's lap 31 for all of these LMPs. This indicates 2-stop strategy here, Fen. There's 4 of them in, and out goes the effective race leader at the time, number 4, Martin Persson.
Yes, number 4, Martin Persson, out first because he was in first, tackling, getting a good lead over the rest of the LMP2 field as they're trying to catch the rest of the GT3s. And it's going to be interesting to see how they manage those tires as well as that fuel to make it a 2-stopper instead of a 3-stopper.
Looks like there was some trouble there coming off the exit because Tom Dreiling's taken the back of Ernie Ludwig there, Rob.
Yeah, I was just looking at that on my timing screen trying to find it there. There's a little bit of an issue between Dreiling and Ludwig. Not sure what happened there, but I'm sure our director might be able to find that and give us a little bit of a replay, but definitely not. You know, this is where it comes out when you're coming out of the pits. You got the GT3s, you got the GTPs coming. You know, everybody chose to pit at the same time, so a lot of chaos right at that hairpin coming off the main straight.
Well, Martin Persson not very happy over the radio with Ernie Ludwig. We're not even racing. Why are you fighting me for the corner? But that looked like it was a case of Tom Dreiling there, Joey, as I believe we're going to take a little bit of a replay here. I think Tom Dreiling's just locked it up and gone a little bit too deep.
Well, let's take a look here down into turn number 1. Gonna get the replay here. You got 3 different classes coming in. That prototype, you're right, Jake, just way too deep on that brake marker, locked him up and into that LMP2.
Fen, it is so easy to think that you can get past 1, 2, 3 as the leading car in terms of pace. It often gives you an element of, I would say, misjudgment sometimes that, oh, I can make that gap because I've got the quickest car.
Definitely. The braking points between the GTP and LMP2 aren't too different. So if you see the LMP2 braking and you aren't, it's likely going to mean that you're going to lock up those tires and send your car potentially into the other one like we saw just now.
And let's not forget as well here, Rob, that Tom Dreiling's already used his fast repair when he got the rear spoiler absolutely taken off of his car. So he is pretty much driving on whatever he's got left now.
Yeah, we've got quite a few drivers, you know, just looking at my different screens, we've got quite a few drivers that are pretty much used their fast repair up. You know, it's just not even quite halfway through this event yet. So, you know, a lot of drivers are going to have to start being careful and start having to really think about the moves that they're going to make, how they're going to make a pass, how they're going to, you know, do you back out of it and kind of give up some time, or, you know, do you go for it and maybe risk your entire race with a bad move on the outside or a dive bomb down the inside?
Well, it's going to be very, very entertaining in terms of who's making the decisions here and there, especially in that LMP2 category, Joey, because you look at someone like Daniel Holmer, who's yet to pit. Might he be one of the drivers who decides to go as long as possible and leave a very short final stint?
Well, that's always an option, especially when you're following somebody is, can you fuel save, especially behind this number 8 car, who's been one of the more aggressive cars making passes all race. And if you can fuel save, right, what that means is just you have more in the tank when you do that final stop. Well, more in the tank means you don't have to fill up as much. The less time you have to fill, well, guess what? That gets you back out onto the racetrack quicker. That's the beauty of those overcuts or undercut strategies.
Yeah, and that beauty is going to be key. Now, the margin between Ericsson and Persson, we're going to be also keeping an eye out on the 4 versus the 37 in this one. That now sits after the pit stop by Persson at under 2 laps now at this point. So this becomes a crucial phase in the race where I think the prototypes are starting to just slowly ring a bell here, Rob, and say, don't forget us, we're still very much in this race.
Yeah, only I was really surprised not a lot more. Well, actually, probably not surprised because I have driven it around here. We don't have a lot more GTPs in the field. But yeah, I mean, doing really well here, really moving up the field here, really starting to catch up. They are, so Jesper Eriksson's on lap 32. I might be behind a lap or so, but yeah, definitely they're going to start being on the same lap as the LMP2s here. Now, the LMP2s, once they pass them, are going to start to get blue flags. But again, with the Predator, all the blue flag means is here he comes, but you do not have to make it easy for him to get around you.
Yeah, there is Holmer making the pass for position then on Ray Partridge. I believe he has then come down into the pit, so he has done well. Daniel Blomqvist is now up into second position. Now remember, Blomqvist had to come in, Joey, for that fast repair, and as such, it's off strategy.
Yeah, and sometimes you just have to deal what the cards give you out there. And I agree with the strategy that if you have damage, if you have that incident, you need to make your bet early on so that way you are now racing your race. You're not leaving it up to fate. And here's the 32 car. I believe this is Wolf Dietrich Otto. Just a bad day continues for this BMW.
Yeah, it's not facing the right way. He's going to be able to get going again, but it is catching drivers out then. The Dunlop corner, because it is a right-hander about, I would say, 80 degrees, that right-hander. It's so similar, Rob, to, say, Portimao's opening corner.
Well, yeah, it looks like he's got some really, really heavy damage there. And yeah, it's one of the slowest corners on the track, and you're making the transition from, you know, that tight left-hander into that right-hander and then trying to get in the pits. As we look at a replay here of Wolf, just how he loses it here.
Yeah, you can see, just on the depression there going through. So had it there through the early stages, but it's the second phase where it goes wrong.
Yes, it is. And that seems to be catching out a few of our BMW drivers who aren't taking that line the way that they should be in order to not have the car slip out from under them. As we slide into more GT3s, getting to their pit lane, getting their pit strategy underway, and figure out what they want to do for the second half.
So the top three yet to come in and make a stop. That was Jacob Hyde, who was in second, who's come in. Jeff Schmeier in the pits, Seaman Broughton also in. So that leaves David H. Baker, Håkan Wett, and also Jeff Cardamone, the only three at this moment who have yet to come in and make that stop. And they're going to try and go as long as they possibly can. There is a focus on your overall race leader at the moment, David Baker, and he is hoping right now here, Joey, that he can just rush away as many laps as he can. If he can get to 45, he's happy, but he's going to be short by about 4, and he's going to dive pit side.
Yeah, here he comes into pit lane. And you just have to make sure that you don't overshoot the cones, don't overshoot your box, as we now have the second place GT3 car. This is the Porsche of Håkan, number 101 back here. I expect him to be coming down pit lane as well. And I have a feeling, Jake, that it's going to bring pretty much the rest of the GT3 class. This is as far as they're going to go.
Well, it's all about Jeff Cardamone at this point. He would be the last of the drivers then to make that decision to dive down into the pits, and he feigns over right. So 40 laps full is going to be the full point of completion that they'll have to deal with. So in will come Cardamone to make that stop. And Rob, you would say at this moment in time, that's a crucial thing for this race. It means they can't make it on a one-stop. They're all having to go to a 2.
Well, yeah, I mean, with the GT3s, I think, so 41 laps, you know, the amount you save going down pit lane, the timing down pit lane, you're probably going to want to save 1 or 2 laps. Again, we're told that drivers can probably get 45, but they will have to do a fair amount of fuel save. It just depends on how they, you know, how they burn their fuel and where they come out and what kind of fuel saving they can do on corner entry.
Here's Jacob Hyde, who will now resume second position. There's a spun car down there through the opening section. That's Mark Rediker, who's found himself pointing the wrong way at the opening corner. They all managed to go through. And that's Jacob Hyde actually getting the jump and going into the race lead. He's past Fatchaponte, he's past David Baker, and they see the easy grass Yorkshire driver. I'm sure Paul Smith will be very happy, but he now finds himself leading the race.
Look at this. All sorts of things changing after the first pit stop. I think we'll get a better feel of how everything cycles out. But Adam Fatchaponte out here, he has come out and he is currently giving chase to Jacob Hyde. Not how I expected it to come out. I actually thought that Fatchapani was going to be in the lead of this thing, but it is David Baker that has fallen.
Yeah, it's so quick, the changes that you seem to find. 2 minutes 30 was the lap by Jacob Hyde. I'm just looking at Fatchaponti's outlap, which was 2:34. So that would indicate to me, in terms of lap time there, Fen, that maybe Jacob Hyde's taken slightly less fuel at the stop.
I definitely get that feeling. That and the fact that I don't think I've seen him pit since lap 5. I might be incorrect in that, and that he hasn't. Oh no,
He's just come out.
Yeah, timing's wrong. Sorry, never mind. But it definitely less fuel is going to be what that's leading to, and hopefully something that he can manage to keep from Vakapani from passing him again as he continues on to the second third of the race.
Yeah, so that's going to be really crucial. It looks like there might be a car off here on this right-hand side. Look at the smoke there. That's going to be Daniel Salim Howard who spins it off at the Coca-Cola corner. And when they've been racing for what is now ticking over an hour and 7 minutes here, Joey, tiredness becomes a factor, and it proves itself again because they're spinning. It's going to be Rob Courtney. Oh, Ray Partridge is not going to be happy about that rejoin.
No, he is not, and he has a right to be very unhappy about that rejoin. You never want to come around a corner and see a car literally pulling perpendicular on the racing line out there. That was not something Ray Partridge wanted to see.
No, he will be very, very upset about that. And there's contact. Lynn Kinchlow will get turned around, tapping the rear quarter panel of Daniel Holmer, Tom Guest. And then, of course, you've got Melvin Orkerson, who is trying to make chase in the prototype. So Kinchlow is also here, Rob, having another tough stint as the rear is repaired. He has taken that fast repair. Now the front will have a little bit of a ding as Orkerson pits.
Yeah, he's having a really, really rough day, Lynn is. I'm sure he's pretty frustrated, but again, you know, these drivers are going to get points based on where they finish. So this is a championship points race. It's the first race of the season. Drivers are going to want to have as many championship points at the end of this as they can possibly get. So they're not going to want to retire unless they absolutely have to. As we come into a replay here.
This might be Jeff Cardamone, who is down in on the pit. So no, this is the 31, and this is what happens. He just loses out there with Courtney, and Lynn there is going to be something a little bit later on. But Fen, that is the traditional tank slapper.
Yes, that it certainly is. If you aren't careful with how you go over that curb, you will just have that tank slapped, and you'll be sliding off into the runoff there, hopefully not hitting a barrier on the way to your stop before you get back into that race.
And Fen, just quickly, we've got the two leaders in then for your prototypes at this moment in time. 36 laps they were able to do on their stints.
Yes, so they have 36 laps on that first stint. We still have a little, like, just under 2 hours left to go. So it's definitely going to be either a 2 or maybe a 3 with just a splash on that third one if they aren't able to fuel save.
Well, it'll be a 2-stop race because if you can go 37, it's only 90 laps. They are definitely well on their way by that regard, so they won't have to worry too much. Here's a bit of side-by-side then on the front stretch. This will be Holmer versus Guest out there heading towards turn number 1. They've got 2 in front of them, which is not going to be easy. It's Wolf Dietrich Hotto, and as well as that, they will have Mike Golightly to get by. Holmer makes the pass then on Tom Guest, and Guest, well, he will say, be my guest, take that place. And really, Joey, there's not really much more that he can do except follow.
No, and he got checked up a little bit by the GT3. Nothing that they did wrong right there, but it just kind of separates him out from Daniel Homer right in front of them. Kind of allows Daniel to breathe, and once again just has to hesitate just a little bit dealing with these GT3 class cars. But that is what the Predator format is all about. You got to race everybody. It's not just these production cars letting the prototypes through. You have to navigate them with a pass.
Yeah, and it's that navigation that becomes important. How quickly can you find that way through? Where can you find that margin? And the more that we get to see this race coming into play, that's going to be rather crucial as they go through and try and navigate forward. Now, I'm very much seeing one car slow. That's Matt Gelder, and he's very nearly in the UDOX Daisy car there, Rob, taken David H. Baker out of this race. He's lucky he's avoided him.
Yeah, it just I missed that moment myself, but yeah, another one where it's just like I said, a lot of it is just having some patience. Even though you are racing absolutely everybody here, your own class, multi-classes, patience is key here. You really just sometimes you gotta let them through even if you don't want to, and give them position or compromise your own race. As we ride on board here with Adam Facciapani.
It is Leipzig versus Maranello out here at the front of this race, because Jacob Hyde will look behind at Adam Facciapani in the Evolve Sim Sports Atlantic Porsche and realise I might be in a little bit of trouble soon if the race lead battle can change. A second taken on that last lap, and there's a good view of the rear view camera that's on the back of that Porsche, giving a full idea. A little bit of blinking's not going to be helping Facciapani in confidence in terms of trying to make that pass, but he'll certainly be eyes forward. How do I make this move, Joey? How do I gain that position to move up into the rate and into the effective race lead?
I think that Adam has a little bit of a pace advantage over that green Ferrari right in front of him. The last lap time a full second faster than Jacob Hyde, our GT3 leader. So I think it's only a matter of time until Facciapani gets around. But what really is interesting between these top three GT3 cars, we have three different strategies. Jacob Hyde, only 26 seconds that last pit box time. Adam Facciapani, 31 seconds. Well, David Baker, 41 seconds. So what I expect is that Facciapani pitted early, like we saw him do, fall back, and now he's relying on his pace. I expect Jacob Hyde, short pitted, he's probably going to come in early, same time as Facciapani, but then David Baker, I expect him to stretch it all the way out until he runs out of gas and then just takes a splash at the end. That's what I'm predicting.
That was Pearson who's gone through, and now he'll be classified when he crosses the line as being only 3 laps down in this race. So effectively 4 laps to chase down here at the halfway stage. Started almost 8 laps down. This is going to be close coming towards the end. I would say here at this point, Rob, the number 4 car is on pace here and is on pace by about half a lap.
Yeah, he's really moving forward here, really getting really good pace on the car. Just ran a 127.4. So it really moving up here, about to come up and start. He's 3 laps down, so 1 more lap and he will start catching and overlapping the GT3s that are a couple of laps down. So good pace there. And again, to your point, with Facciapani, honestly, if I was him, I would just kind of sit behind Hyde. They've got a 6-second lead over Baker. Just kind of sit behind him, save some fuel. You've got the faster car. Don't risk anything. And, make that move in about, we're halfway through, so make that move in about 30 laps.
Fen, I'm going to come to you here with this because there's going to be one key in terms of the second half of this race for Martin Pearson. His pit stop time we're expecting is going to be exactly the same as his first. Those drivers who find themselves in this race in the GT category, their pit stops are going to be quicker.
They are. So one thing that Pearson's going to have to make up is not only time on the track to catch up to the leaders and overtake them, but also to overtake their pit stop time that they're going to save on versus his current time and what those pace is going to be. I definitely think he's got the pace currently to do it. It's a question of whether he can maintain that for the rest of this race.
Yeah, there have been a handful of retirements here from this one. Michael Hagstrom, Stephen Mioch, Patrick Kopp, Craig Hawkins, retirees. Kenneth Reeder has become the most recent retiree from this race. The last runner is Rob Courtney, currently 8 laps down at the moment. Jesper Eriksson is also going to be a key feature in the final stages of this race. The number 37 car is going to be very much alert to trying to chase down the group, and he's almost caught and put himself very near the lappage that's there in front. Would only have 2 to catch, but here is Henderson versus Fredriksson. Joey, this battle never ends.
No, it really doesn't. It's just kind of the gift that keeps on giving, at least for us that's watching. However, I have a feeling if you are Travis Henderson, You are tired of seeing these silver and orange cars, and it just took a huge shot. Actually, all three of the cars are going to make the contact, trying to navigate around that GT3 car, and that's what you get. You just have to predict. You have to look far in advance, otherwise those accordion stack-ups, they can happen.
That is a huge opportunity there, and it could have very easily have been a lot more. It was Michael Hogg, who was in the baby metal car there, that went on forward. So that could have been all sorts of trouble out there overall. It was very much a case of give me more than chocolate. It was a case of give me a chance to keep racing this race, and all three of them have somehow there, Rob, avoided calamity.
Looks like actually that 24 car right now has a little bit of front end damage. I don't know if we can get a good shot at it, but it's definitely from that contact, that front to rear contact that we just saw. So definitely that number 24 of Travis Henderson is going to start to fall off as we check in with our GT3 lead battle with Adam Facciapani, currently giving chase to Jacob Hyde right in the slipstream.
He's right there. This is going to be a feint out to the inside, I think. Jacob's saying, I don't really want to fight this, but he goes really deep on the brakes. He gives him all of the room in the world, and through he goes. I'll tell you what, Joey, this reminds me of those bus tours that they do when they go to the, I believe it's the Fuji 10-hour that they go through, and they drive the GT3 cars with the bus. They left that much room.
Yeah, it's pretty fun, and I honestly feel like if you're in a GT3 car around some of these fast corners, Jake, you feel like you might be in the bus with those prototypes flying around at those speeds.
Yeah, absolutely. And it feels like a helter-skelter. And some of the times, especially if you're in the BMW with how large the machinery is, and the AMG Mercedes is a little bit chunky as well when you sort of look around there, Rob, sometimes that can be accused of being a bus with the caliber of car in this field.
Yeah, you do. You know, that is the thing about multi-class racing. When you're in one of the, the GT3 cars, you're like, man, why I'm so slow? And you see these guys just blast past you, and it can get frustrating, and it can really kind of compromise you in how you drive. You're like, why am I not faster? And when you have to realize the car isn't as fast as the guy that's coming around you.
Right, now here is the situation. Jesper Eriksson has just made the pass on Martin Persson in the number 4 car. That puts him 2 laps behind in terms of this race. So he's got to go around and catch 1, 2 to get through. It's then a further 3 for Persson to catch the leaders overall. Effectively, Eriksson's got to try and catch 5 laps on Adam Facciapani, who leads this race. This is plausible. It can be done. It's going to need a little bit of work here from Jesper Eriksson, Joey.
It's an uphill battle. It can be done, yes, Jake, but I just think it's going to be an uphill battle for the GTPs. You look at how spread out this LMP2 field is, and it doesn't look so bad in terms of the entries, but then when you stack up, 50 seconds between these cars, 15 seconds, 11 seconds, another 15 seconds between the next group. It's a lot. It's a big gap between each one of these LMP2s that's probably going to fight you the whole way.
Absolutely, and there's been some quiet performances in the LMP2s here, and I think the big one is number 34, Ed Shelley, as we focus forward on that, as Eriksson, with cameras on him, sets the fast lap of the race at 24.004. Now, this is a really important point to say, is that those drivers who've been quiet, likes of Ed Shelley, Garen Batten, those 2 drivers, Rob, are going to be getting some great points to start, and you would put those 2 as perennial title contenders at the start of this season.
Oh, 100%. I mean, they run well every year, and I'm actually just trying to get confirmation now, but I believe the drivers have to run 50%. So all drivers that are currently on track right now have made it halfway, so they will acquire points for the season. But I know for myself personally too, a lot of drivers, once you hit that 50% mark and you know you're going to get points, even if it's only 1 or 2, you kind of open yourself up a little bit and maybe get a little bit more aggressive on track to try and maybe get even more points. As I'm just checking my timing screen, and Lynn Kinchlow is the first GT3 to be passed by Martin Persson.
Yeah, so Kinchlow then will join those who are laps down. So Craig Hawkins and Stephen Miyotko are out of the race to now put himself into play. We just saw Shelley there have to take to the grass through turn 2, and there is another one then. That's Josh Hampton, I believe there is, who will be next in terms of that. But Number 4 is starting to make that progress. Martin Persson has his eyes set forward, and he knows how crucial it is going to be, Joey, that he makes up places.
Well, and we see him going by the first of the GT3 cars, but don't let this fool you yet, folks. Lynn Kinchlow was a few laps down. Martin Persson has 36 seconds to make up before he runs into the next GT3 car that I'm checking on is still 3 laps down from our leader. So lots of racing still to come. I have a feeling the fires, they're not out yet.
No, not yet. There is Jeff Cardamone, then in 16th position. He's got his eyes side by side on this front stretch. That's James Dean, who's alongside him for company, and just flying through on that inside is Ernie Ludwig, who's going to put himself on the lead lap compared to those drivers, as Cardamone makes sure that he holds that position stationary and nice. Wallot will also slip one down the inside and get one of the 2 there, but not the second. But again here, Rob, we're seeing the teammates and the ability to just slide and sidle on a little overtake here and there. They're making sure it's nice and easy work.
Yeah, team championship, definitely another thing to, another point to put across. There are team championship alongside the individual driver championships within the major series. So they're going to try and get as much as they can. They're going to help each other. Jeff Cardamone, he's lost 7 positions so far. He had a little bit of an incident, but definitely going to want to try and get as many points as he possibly can for his team and put them in a good position for the start of the season with the team championship.
There's Lynn Kinchlow, and it looks like it's going to pour at this point. Daniel Blomqvist has got by, but now he's going to dive into the pits in the alternative strategy. Now, this looks like it's a little bit too far out here, Fen, for him to make it home from here.
Definitely. With that much race left to go, there's definitely going to be a time for probably a splash and dash. I don't know that he'll need tires, depending if he keeps them cool and doesn't shred them too badly. He should be able to make it with just some short fuel stint and make it to the end of the race.
What are we looking at? About 9 laps he'll have then at the end?
About that much, depending on how, if he was able to save fuel prior to him coming in for that splash. About 9 laps, maybe 10, maybe 8. We'll have to see.
Well, we'll see what Daniel Blomqvist can do, as there is the push around and trying to make some real charges. Jesper Eriksson is on a motor at this moment in time, and he knows how important it's going to be to catch number 4, but he is now soon to be dealing. He's only half a lap behind the first of your LMP2s, Joey, that being Jason Wallot, his next focus.
Yeah, just got to keep focusing forward. That's all you can do right now. Jason Wallot out there on the racetrack. Also, the number 37 car as we watch go around here. Come through turn number 1 and 2. That's Jesper Eriksson working his way through more of this GT3 traffic. I'm curious, how far forward is he going to make his way here through this second stint before you come in? We haven't even talked about, if you run up onto a pack of cars, if it's smarter to come down pit road versus battle them. It's all up to that decision making from each one of those prototypes.
Well, surely you would feel it depends on situation. The situation depending on whether you can make that pass and clear them on the straight, that's going to be the decision of whether you can come in, or whether you're going to have a lap that goes on forward and makes it nice or not. So you're pretty much sat in the perfect place to go, well, you know what? This is going to be very, very dependent, I would say, at different circuits. But the trouble that you have here, Rob, is this is one of the few circuits where you've got such a long straight that you can probably clear all of that trouble. If it's too far down the road, you're not really worrying about it. If it's too near to you, you've got a long straight to clear it.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, we were looking at pit entry, pit exit. I mean, if you come out of the final turn, come out of that straightaway, maybe you've got a pack 6-7 cars in front of you. Where are you actually going to catch them? You definitely don't want to catch them into turn 1, because then you're either going to have to go wide, or you're going to have to make a really, really risky move, dive bomb to get around them. So, yeah, definitely decision-making time coming out onto the straight as to, is it worth it, or do you just kind of give up that half a second, maybe even, might even be almost, 7/10 of a second. Do you just give it up and keep yourself clean?
Now, here's a battle between prototypes. Melvin Orkerson behind Sam Harper. Harper has made his way up into second position. Jesper Eriksson, by comparison, is almost half a lap down the road. So that for Sam Harper is going to be a little bit of a long chase to get back. But if he wants as many points as possible, this is how quick he's going to have to drive. And he is pretty much sliding by everything. That's Jan Bruni. He puts back another lap.
Just got to attack the racetrack, and you squeeze by the GT3 cars wherever you can. You were mentioning just got to go forward, got to move faster. There's number 25 of Melvin out here making his way through the traffic. And
it's high.
I believe...
Jason,
go ahead,
Jacob Hyde's just spun it, coming out of the GR Super corner. And that will gift a couple of places back again. He now falls back to third.
Yeah, I'm catching this myself on my screen. This green Ferrari just through the slower section of the racetrack. You're right, got on the throttle. There was no contact whatsoever with any other car around, just a self-inflicted spin.
And it so easily happens. Now take a look at this. He'll be coming up through the hill. Fen, this is a huge one for the Easy Grass Yorkshire driver. The number 97 goes up the hill, and everybody is too early on the power through this corner. You can see he's chalked, he's got no grip.
It's such a common thing to happen at this corner because you're going over this hill, you're losing a little bit of traction as you're trying to apply power for that straight before the last curve onto getting out of Panasonic, and you just will sometimes lose it. It happens so frequently, especially in longer races when you're fatigued and don't have that wherewithal to keep that corner locked in.
Yeah, and soon we'll be at the stage of 2 laps behind now for Martin Persson in this race. This is a massive moment. There's Michael Hogg in his race for 13th in the Baby Metal #NotACult racing car as he looks to try and make the pass then forward. I can now confirm that Persson has only got himself 2 laps down to Adam Fatcher-Ponti at this point, so he's got to make 1 revolution to go to 1 lap down, 1 revolution to be on the same lap, and then a further revolution. So he's 3 laps back, and he's got 36 laps effectively to get through those 3 laps. So can he find a pass every 13 laps, Rob?
Yeah, he's good. You know, I believe we were looking at the LMP2s to have 3 pit stops throughout this. So he's still got a pit stop that he's got to go and 3 laps to make up. So it's going to be really interesting to see, you know, when he takes the opportunity to do that based on the fuel usage, because I can honestly say I don't think he's doing any fuel saving at the moment.
But he's also got Harper and Orkerson behind, who will want to put themselves an extra lap into arrears. So those 2 are going to be continue on their race. There is car number 4, and he is driving a simply magnificent race at this moment in time. Just the 2 laps back at the moment, and this is Mike Golightly that he's trying to get by, who is also there with, I believe, Jeff Cardamone, who is 1 lap down. So that is another one they go through. But yes, we are in that window here, Joey, and we're about 5 laps away from when we expect Martin Persson to make that final stop.
Yeah, and we got to remember that Martin Persson's on lap 52 of his stint, even though we are on lap 55 overall. So, and I shouldn't say 52 of his stint, but 52 of his race. So I have a feeling that Persson's going to be able to stretch it out about a handful of laps more. The GT3 cars are definitely going to be the first ones to pit, but I don't see any of the lead group having to do 3 stops. I have a feeling that if you're on a 3-stop strategy, it's just not going to produce the result that you want.
No, I don't think so either. I think everyone's very much locked into 2-stop strategies across the board here today, including Jesper Eriksson, who we focus on right now. It's Ray Partridge just in front that he is dealing with. He wants to catch Jason Wallot as soon as possible, who's about 4 cars down the road. So these 2 are going to be the first 2, Partridge and Gary Thomas, and he's going to have to thread the needle here, use the hybrid to go through. A casual bit of 3 wide there, Rob, with all 3 classes.
Yeah, it's amazing to see how this car can just, you know, put that power. Whoa, really loose moment. And this is the hardest part in these cars, is this section right here, because there is so much track change. There's elevation change. There's camber change in the track, and there's no downforce in these cars. So you really, really got to be careful on the braking. You really got to be careful on the power until you get out here, and then you can put your foot down and really open this car up.
and if it goes wrong, you hope you don't want to be spare change, and that much is very, very clear. Simon Broughton is one of the drivers then who is looking to make some good progress here in this race. He's looking around him at this moment. He's doing a great job, actually, I would say, at the moment, in 6th position. There's a number of drivers who have had some great quiet races, and it includes Håkan Wet, who's in 5th place here, Joey. So a number of the GT drivers at this point are actually having a really nice run at this moment.
And I think you just have to keep on your race. I feel like if you're in that slowest class, and here it is, the GT3 class, it's easy to get caught up in these prototypes. Look at how fast they're going. Look at how much they're catching me. But you just have to stick to your strategy, what you can do as your lap time, because you can't really affect anybody else. I feel like if you really try to block one of these prototypes, you're just going to get shoved out of the way in one of the GT cars. So you just have to almost eliminate them from your brain and say, hey, I'm racing my race.
Absolutely. There will become a point where you will have to deal with them for position, and late that could be crucial. And we've been seeing a complete masterclass here of Jesper Eriksson on board as he has made his way through now on Simon Broughton. Jason Wallot, he has made a pass for position on. That's going to be really crucial. And then he'll be looking at the likes of Tom Guest and Håkan Wet just in front as the next two in terms of trying to get the passes sorted. So that is what we're getting at the moment. That's the gap that he's got in his class right now here on lap 57. Here, Rob, it's half a minute.
Yeah, definitely. You know, it's a straight line coming down. Just lets you see all the different cars and the classes coming through here. I just love to see that. You know, again, I'm really surprised more people didn't pick up the GTP, but we saw Harper there. We look at our LMP2s here with Pearson, you know, 34-second lead over Shelley. So as long as he can maintain and keep him, you know, keep his nose clean, probably a really good chance to make himself up there in the front and up on laps to be able to maybe take a win here in the LMP2 class and overall.
Well, that 35 seconds, which it now stands at, is huge for Pearson, and he is trying to drive away from everybody else and stamp his name with authority. Shelley and Batten are no slouches. They are getting some big points at the moment if they can convert that in the latter stages of this race. This is where it all comes together. Everything's been building. It's been simmering like a hot pot. Oh, it's getting very busy right there through the 300 right corner. That could have very easily have been a lot more disaster there with Wolf Dietrich Hotto, with Melvin Orkerson, who was in there, Travis Henderson, Sam Harper. They were all there in the mix, and that could have very easily have been trouble street for a number of key contenders in today's racing. So that, an important clearance there, Joey.
Yeah, well, not only did Martin Pearson have to deal with the prototypes, the GTP cars, but also had to deal with some of the GT3s and then also a slower LMP2 car that he was able to navigate around. But this is the number 20. This is our overall race leader and your GT3 class race leader of Adam Facciapani. He currently has 9.5 seconds over David Baker right now. But remember, that pit stop, it is different between the top 3 runners in GT3. So I'm really curious to see how that last stop will play out.
The man they call Face leading this race. Facciapani is doing everything to try and gain some time. He runs a little bit wide there through the Dunlop corner, and they all have to be very alert to how many times they run wide, because lest we forget here, Rob, 30 instant points, you're taking a trip down pit lane, and that would be the worst thing possible there. There is the driver, David H. Baker, and he has been the sort of driver who's been just quietly getting on with business. That's been the way he's trying to go through. He'll have a very short stop to end his race.
Well, we saw that little incident with him. I'm just wondering if maybe he's carrying a little bit of damage, or maybe he's trying to save fuel. You know, but, you know, definitely, you know, right there, it's got a 10-second gap to Facciapani. But I mean, Facciapani's shown that he can really drive. I did, you know, race with him last year. But I mean, everybody in this field, they can drive these cars. But now that we're coming down with 30 to go, this is where it opens up. This is where guys, you know, our LMP2s, our GTPs, even our back runner GT3s are going to say, okay, I got 30 laps to go. I need to start making moves. I need to stop letting guys through me. And I'm hoping it stays clean, but I'm also, in the same instance, maybe expecting to see a little bit more chaos open up here within the last 30 laps.
Desperation is a very vital ingredient to the end of this race, and how desperate a driver's going to be. You just saw there Jesper Eriksson have to try and make a few dives there through. That was Matt Gelder that he had to try and deal with, and soon up he'll find Adam Pachaponti, which will put him to 3 laps down rather than 4 laps down, and that's going to be crucial. There he is just in front. Look at the swarm that goes through. Pachaponti putting his own lap down on Mike Golightly, and then you got Ericsson who's trying to work out, well, where's the best way I can go? I can sneak this one up the inside, that's no problem. And then here at Panasonic, where can I find another one? You'll look to the outside all the way around, and power on the exit. Look at that. That will jump him only to 3 laps down, and that is crucial for the driver who's currently in 29th at this point, as we're starting to get some drivers making those final decisions to jump into the pits, Joey.
I think with the GT3 class cars, you can make that option right now. They've stretched that fuel a little bit longer than the rest, or at least some of them did. So I have a feeling that that window is officially open. Now, when each driver will come down, that is going to be dictated based on their strategy, where they are on the racetrack, and basically the math that they've already done.
Oh, no, there he goes. Just like that, pushing a little bit too hard, just keeps it out of the barriers. A huge, huge moment in the context of the race for Jesper Eriksson, Rob.
and he walked away from it. I am so surprised he's pulling away from that. Maybe our director will make it. Maybe the steering wheel is a little bit off, but man, I am so surprised he didn't walk away from that with a lot more damage on that car.
He was unsettled through entry. It turned into huge unsettlement off of the exit of Coca-Cola. It's cost him, all in all, about 10 seconds. And how desperately will he want those 10 seconds back here, Joey?
Yeah, and I took a look around the car. I don't see any visual damage on that lead GTP, as we've got the number 20 on our screen here, but you're right, Jake. I wonder what it does to the driver's mindset if you're already having to be aggressive to try to get to the front. Now you know you've set yourself back about 10 seconds. How much is that red mist going to take over the visor?
I think Pachaponti is signaling he wants to come in on cue. 30 laps to go here, Ben. He is making the call to dive to the pits.
Yes, he is. He's going in for his final pit stop, get tires, fuel, all the things that he needs to end this race in first place. As long as he can keep both LMP2 and GTP behind him in his rearview mirrors for as long as possible.
And take the race lead away once more. David H. Baker is back to the point, having started the race effectively on pole position here for this one. High, just 3.3 seconds behind him at this point. Pachaponti taking as much fuel as he can and getting himself the final 30-lap stint to bring himself home. We are expecting other drivers soon to jump in from different classes. It looks like it might be a case of trying to rush to get on the Shinkansen to try and get into the pits at the moment here, Joey.
Man, this is the number 44 car having not the best day for this Lamborghini. I think Lynn Kinchlow is probably going to want to forget today, but I'm curious, as you are, Jake, what these pit stop times are in the GT3 class. I think we've got a pretty big window when we talk about that class in comparison to the rest. So even though Pachaponti just came in, I have a feeling it might be up to 10, maybe even 15 laps before we see the other group of lead drivers.
I think that's going to be very, very true, that a number of these drivers are going to be yet to pit because they have extended the fuel tank out to the maximum in the early goings. Now, let's take a little look further back in terms of this race. Exactly what has come about is that you can see out of the line and through is going to go car number 37 there. That then is some comfortable running from Jesper Eriksson. This was the corner of troubles though, Roll.
Yeah, and it's one of those corners where you get it. Another one of those corners, you get it right, and you're so happy because you managed to carry so much speed through the corner, but you get it wrong, and it's not a happy day for you.
No, it very much isn't if you do get it in the wrong side as they go out and race. On the brakes they go. There is Martin Persson, who's got his eyes on Matt Gelder just in front. Persson now currently classified as 14th. That's a passing position. He is now lucky 13th at this moment. That is Jacob Hyde just in front, who is going to be one of his main challengers in the latter stages of this race. Flies around without any argument there and now will be 2 laps effectively on the road behind him. You'll then have a few seconds down the road, David H. Baker, who's trying to thread a needle right now between Daniel Blomqvist and Lynn Kinchlow, and he's going to be able to navigate some of that, but it's all about the hold-up. Where is the hold-up here, Joey, for Martin Persson? Because it looks like every time he encounters traffic, there's never a hold-up.
Well, right there, he's getting held up just a little bit by our overall race leader, David Baker. So you know David Baker's not paying him any favors. The Mercedes hugs the inside, makes the prototype go the long way around these turns, which is the way to do it, folks, because the prototypes we talked about, they don't like going slow. So if you can keep up that Darlington line around the outside, that is producing more grip for those number 4 car. But is he coming down pit lane here? He's coming in, it looks like, or is he just taking a tow? He is coming down pit road.
Yeah, this is lap 60, so this will indicate he's also on a similar strategy here, Fed, to Fatchaponti. 30-30-30 is the way he wants to get it in. He's right up against the line on transit, and he will travel a long way before he finds his box.
That he will, but he will make it to his box, probably get fresh tires and fuel, just like Fatchaponti did, and then get back out on the circuit to get that last third done. Hopefully, passing Fatchaponti for first place is what he's probably going to be aiming for with this last stint.
Well, it might be Fatchaponti, it might be David H. Baker, it might be Jacob Hyde. You don't quite know at this moment in time. Rob, this is so crucial in terms of a phase of this race. Any one mistake out there on circuit will cost you valuable time, and seconds are just a much more important commodity the longer that this race goes on. Everybody's looking around, everybody knows it. There's Jesper Eriksson out there on track. He's looking at Ernie Ludwig just in front, but he still finds himself 3 laps down after having that huge save, that huge spin earlier.
Well, yeah, and definitely don't count him out here. I mean, these GTPs are, you know, he just ran a 124.6 compared to Peterson's last lap of a 132.9. So, well, mind you, that's with his pit stop, so I'll have to wait for the update. But, you know, Peterson's been lapping at around 126, 127s. So, you know, definitely the GTPs still have a full opportunity to get in here, as they're on lap 60 to 63s of what our official is with David H. Baker. So, you know, this is still anybody's race. Looks like they might have done a really good job on the timing for this round.
It certainly does look that way. We are on lap 63 here of 90 as it stands, just ticked over lap 64. So you will have 74, 84, 94, 27 laps of racing still to go, and there are still laps to be found out there, and you reckon that maybe it's a couple laps to the good for that number 4 car to try and get that one over. This is going to be a tall order for the GT3s at this point to get this one safe. It's going to be close, but how close is going to be the question, Joey?
Yeah, I'm trying to do the rough math, and folks, trust me, my math is not always good on the fly. When I'm calculating fuel numbers, okay, we can do that, but when we're trying to calculate these gaps between classes, it's pretty tough to really figure out exactly where they're going to go. But this number 4 car of Martin Persson is about 2 plus laps behind the GT3 leaders. But what stands out to me is most of the GT3 cars in front of him still have to make that final stop. Consider we're got about a quarter of the way, race left. Yeah, the number 4 is looking pretty.
In comes Fredrickson, in comes Sam Harper. So one of your prototypes then jumps in, makes that stop. And this is important for Sam Harper to be in a little bit earlier than Melvin Orkerson, because he came in at around the same time there, Fen, on their first stops.
That he did, and so going to see what he's going to do with his pit strategy, deviating from Ericsson when it comes to the second stop and getting fuel, tires, everything he needs to probably finish off this race. But the point, I guess, is why not wait and have a lighter car that'll go faster instead of going in early, other than maybe fresh tires if you shredded them too hard.
Right, this is the first real indicator of pit stop. Where does Jacob Hyde come out in comparison to Adam Fatchaponti? This is where you're starting to get that understanding of where everybody lines up in the long and the short. Through the Toyota GR Supra corner goes Adam Fatchaponti in his Porsche, and he will know how important it is that he gets the drive. Jacob Hyde has one of the longest transits here, Rob, to get himself out of the pits.
Yeah, a long, long drive down pit road. It can be so frustrating sometimes, but he's the first one in to come in and grab everything. So now he's pretty much set up. Just get out there, run your laps, run clean, and he's shown he's got the pace. So he may be able to stay ahead of Pearson, who's just putting on a beautiful run here and has made his final stop. But again, I'm trying to do the math the same as Joey was there. I can't seem to really get it in my head with the lap times these guys are running.
Well, there goes Jacob Hyde, a long ways off of Adam Fatcher-Ponti, who may have just struck gold. That is 13 seconds the margin. It was about 11 when he came in to make his stop. So he's gained 2 seconds in that pit stop, and that is crucial for Fatcher-Ponti's race. He knows he's got one less car to maybe deal with from behind, Joey. This is where you're really trying to open up and say, what can I do in the final stages of this race? You've got to manage your own race, but it's so difficult as a car with less power, less drive, to actually defend, physically defend, without being a complete roadblock.
I think it goes back to what I was talking about earlier, is that you just have to race your own race, pretty much eliminate the other cars off of the racetrack. Yes, they're still there. Yes, you still have to pay attention to them so you don't punt them off the racetrack yourself. But there's nothing you can do at this point. There's not a carrot dangling in front of you to go get a position. You are purely racing the clock, racing your pace, and you just have to stay within your limits out there, limit those mistakes, and that's what's going to propel you forward.
That absolutely will. This is going to come down to who can find what out there on this circuit. We've got some very close gaps out there that will continue to claw down the longer this racing brings itself into fruition, and there is the focus on some of the drivers here. Now look at this in the middle of the circuit. This is going to be tight, as there is car 2 there of Simon Broughton, who's going to be in the middle of this one, Rob, and he's trying to pick a pocket or two, and you can see flying through there past Håkan Quet and Jason Willott. That's Melvin Orkerson, who's desperately trying to find some time before his pit stop.
Yeah, kind of let them through there pretty good, and that's what you want to see, nice and clean, and let them through, but maintain where you're at as he goes after. Not really, just kind of running his own race, as Joey was saying. This is the point where frustration's kicked in, fatigue is kicking in, and whoa, really heavy on that bump. That's going to upset that car. And fatigue is kicking in. You've been running with 2 other different classes. It's frustrating. I know myself, I've run endurance. It can be really, really play on you, and now you just kind of got to settle in, hope for more, try for more, but keep your car clean.
And these two, Broughton and Huet here, it's a battle between Norway and Sweden on the run towards that first corner, TGR corner, Daiichi corner, on the brakes, looking for a chance then at the opening sections. Not going to quite happen yet for Simon Broughton. He's going to have to be rather patient in the way that he finds that pass. And even, especially when it's same car category of battle, you are looking here, Joey, to find the small weaknesses around the lap. Where am I a little bit better than my opponent, and where can I exploit that?
And that's the small picture here of just a position. And here comes Simon Broughton to the inside of what is known as the hairpin. Going to be a big old door bang there with the number 101, but he is going to take over that 3rd place position. And, it might have been a little bit aggressive there on that pass, but Jake, how many times have we seen in regular racing where 2 cars battle and they slow each other up? All Simon Broughton did right there was try to get around, make up that track position without getting held up in a big drawn-out battle.
And I think he's done a rather good job of that with that tiny bit of, well, it wasn't tiny, but the contact that was there. So that was a crucial element to try and make that move. And you could say that was beautifully constructed and everything that was wanted and then some. Now here comes the interesting point of the race for Jesper Eriksson, because that gap we expect has extended out between Edward Shelley and Martin Persson to about 40 to 50 seconds at this moment in time. If Jesper Eriksson can find the passes on Batten and on Shelley, he knows that he is on schedule here in the final stages to get very, very close to Martin Persson.
Well, and he will have to deal with Blomqvist as well. So, but yeah, definitely on good pace here to move himself forward. And again, I think they did a really good pretty close job here on timing. It's going to be really interesting to see the end of this race. Maybe even see a GTP, LMP2, GT3, 1, 2, 3 in random order. We'll have to see how that goes.
We absolutely will. Adam Thatcher-Ponte is going to be the key here to all of this. He is, though, dropping time to David H. Baker at the moment. Now, this is where the race is being won with the GT3s at the moment. Ericsson with a 23.8. What a lightning lap that is. Joey, the key, though, is David H. Baker is a second a lap quicker than Adam Thatcher-Ponte at the moment.
Yeah, no, there's definitely some distances being closed in that you can't physically see on the racetrack, and we saw the purple lap out of Ericsson, the number 37, this GTP class leader. And I'm not surprised, Jake. I'm looking at the fuel window. He's on lap 29, lap 30 of his current stint, so I have a feeling this GTP car pretty light on fuel right now, making maximum pace.
Yeah, and will probably need one more stop, one change of tyres, but does he have enough fuel in the car, so to speak, to cover that change of tyres? That's going to be the next change of question that's going to be there. So that's the next focus on what can you get out of the late stages of this race. Up the hill, then goes the charge of Jesper Ericsson. That's Marcus Strum he's trying to get through, and he does manage that, and he's also cleared, quite crucially, Garen Batten there in that scenario. That was for position. Rob, that was a great move for position.
Oh yeah, definitely. It just really has a really good handle on the car here. And as we were saying with his fastest lap there, sure he had the, with these GTPs, they have the hybrid mode, different stages of the hybrid mode, attack mode, build mode, just balance it out so you always have battery. As we see James Dean in the pits here from 19th. But yeah, I'm sure he's going to be using that attack mode a lot right now to try and make up as much time as he can. But you got to be careful too, because if you burn that battery out, you can actually lose almost a second and a half pace time if you don't have any MGU battery left in your car.
And that's big, because that's a huge amount of deployment. You're talking about somewhere over 100 brake horsepower that you get of extra oomph around the circuit there, Joey, and that can be the difference between winning and losing.
Yeah, you always like to have horsepower. If you can't have grip, it's always nice to have the engine under your right foot, and a lot of times drivers rely on that right foot to get them out of trouble. That's why a lot of these feeder series, they don't have big motors. You got to learn how to drive the car, and then once you understand how to race out there, that's when you jump up and have to deal with these big old motors out there. But I will say from personal experience, it's nice to put your right foot down, and it is a rocket.
21 laps to go, and the gap is 2 laps now between Martin Persson and David H. Baker at the front of this field. Baker is still yet to stop, so there's the advantage. It might be 1.5 laps at the moment with 20. That might just hit the scale enough at this point in time that you're looking around and you're going, well, Persson might have the chance, but Jesper Ericsson is still in range if he hasn't just half spun it. Oh my goodness me, Jesper Ericsson of the 37's just made a half spin at the opening corner. He is pushing with everything he's got, Rob.
Yeah, they're going to open it up now, 20 laps to go. Now's the time. You got to push, we're going to see a little bit of bullying. These LMP2s, GTPs are not going to sit back anymore. They're going to look at that as we got a replay here of Bloomfest. Had a moment here, got caught up here with Lynn. We'll just see what happens here.
Over the hill, through the left, and it's Lincoln Slow who spins in front there, and it's great avoidance, Fen, in that scenario.
Oh, certainly. Good awareness, good understanding, listening to spotter call outs, that there's an incident probably up ahead. He probably got that call right as the smoke is popping up, and around the corner, you'll see him just making that break and getting it done.
He almost had exactly the same thing happen, exactly the same place, this time with Jesper Ericsson and the number 37 car who has had a half spin on this lap. So everybody now is starting to struggle a little bit here with what they've got, and we are starting to tick over to that track here at this moment, Joey, getting slightly cooler. It had peaked as high as about 90, 95. It's now dropped itself back down to about 90 again in Fahrenheit.
Yeah, it's still relatively warm, though, when you look at iRacing and the temperatures. So Yes, it is coming back down. I feel like the drivers, if they're going to pick up on that, that's just going to make them more aggressive, because the cooler the track temperature, the more grip that's available out there to the drivers. But honestly, Jay, depending on how this all plays out, when I look at the big picture of our GTP class leader of Ericsson, he's made 2 self-inflicted mistakes so far. If he just misses out on a win, I have a feeling he only has himself to look at.
Yes, and I think that's going to be really crucial. He's about a lap behind here on Martin Persson. So that's the real kicker that he's looking for, and a stop to go. And he'll only be chasing that down at about 4 seconds a lap if he's clean through that, because Persson's running 27.5s at this moment in the race. And so you're looking at the math, you're looking at the time, you're looking at the laps. It's going to be close whether he's going to reach that or not, with the pit stop that will have to go in tandem. Persson driving through the Coca-Cola corner and now rushing through the next long right-hander. Always look to go through. This is a deceptively difficult track here as well, Rob, when it comes to tyre life, because you've got all these long corners that do take it out of you.
Well, it's the corners and the curbs, you know, these, you know, you see the white and red curbs, they can really rip your tires apart depending on how much you ride on them, and, you know, how you take a corner, and you know, big bump there, you know, can really upset the car, put little dents and damages to your wing. It can really affect the car, so you really want to try and keep it clean. And again, in here through this tight section of track, it is, I don't care what you're driving, this is such a technical part of track that if you know, you want to try and get it right, and when you get it right, it's so satisfying. But yeah, it's just the slowest part of the track, no downforce. It's all based on how you're driving the car, where your foot's at, where your brake's at.
It's all you need to focus on. Now, the keys here, there are 3 drivers in terms of this race, Joey, that are focuses for David H, or for Adam Fatcher-Ponti. Jeff Schmeier, Simon Broughton, and Håkan Wet. Those 3 drivers will need to be out of the way for him to focus solely on David H. Baker if he's got a chance in the GT3s.
Well, and thankfully, if we look at the number 20, he doesn't have anybody directly in front of him. 22 seconds to go up to that number 101 car. And I have a feeling that if he does catch them just based off of outright pace on the racetrack, they're going to be pitting extremely soon. So I really do think it's going to be Fatcher-Ponti versus David Baker, and it's going to come down to those pit stop delta times. Remember, Fatcher-Ponti about 32 seconds in the box, 33 seconds by our producer. David Baker, we'll just have to see how short that pit stop time is.
Well, it's going to be a case now of where do you go. Persson, we've been focusing on with the majority of this run now through these laps, because we know that that time is ticking away and ticking away and ticking away, and it is very difficult to really get an understanding. Melvin Åkesson gets the fastest lap now, a 23.8. gets put down on the board. So now you're really getting that understanding of these laps are ticking, and it is a case of everyone is now trying to push onto the absolute limits that they can. In terms of where Ericsson's looking in terms of his stop, remember, he made his first stop on lap 37, which would indicate right now that he's on a splash and dash here, Fen, in about 4 laps.
About 4 laps, yeah, that'll be a splash and dash for the final stops for a few of our drivers, and it'll be just to see how long they lose time and more in pit road than actually in the lane than in their box themselves.
It's going to be really, really close, I think, towards the end. There is your overall leader, David H. Baker, and he will leave it to the absolute limit to make that decision to come down into the pits, get a very quick set of tires and fuel, and rush back off again, because he was able to go 41 laps on his stint of fuel. He'll be looking to try and go another 41 laps. That will take him to lap 82, and that will leave him just a 9-lap stint to get himself home, where he will be holding on to everything. And that might actually be the way this race is won, Joey, by not taking tires.
Yeah, and he can't take tires. So if we see this Mercedes come into pit lane and go up on the air jacks, a mistake has been made and he will lose that race. But the whole idea behind the strategy is you come in and just have to put a splash of fuel in the car. Fatcher-Ponti, remember, 32 seconds in pit lane. How short can the number 33 make their stop?
And remember, they've been running very equal pace over the course of this stint, if not David H. Baker a little bit quicker. That's big. There's the 487 car of Daniel Blomqvist, who we expect will have to come down in the final stages of this race for a splash of his own to get himself into play. He will have Jesper Eriksson soon approaching on him, which will leave just one of the LMP2 category cars in the wake of Eriksson, but we know that Eriksson will have to come down in at some point soon to get his last stop as well. So a number of drivers coming in. In fact, Eriksson here then is about to dive in now.
Yes, Ericsson's diving into pit lane, going to make that quick change, maybe of tires, but if not tires, then just fuel, to get this done so that way he can keep moving up the field. I'd say it's going to be interesting to see how little he puts in beyond what he is needed to get to the end of this race.
Well, can he find the magic ticket? He's done so well over the course of this stint. He might just have enough, but it all depends on how quick this stop is. There are a number of cars in the pits right now. Redeker's been in there for a while. Åkesson dives in. Ernie Ludwig has been in the pits. Now he's getting his final stop on the way again. There is your number 4, who looks like is dead set on to try and chase down all of the GT3s that remain in front of him, but there is still that whisper in the wind of Jesper Eriksson. That's the only thing that really, Joey, is going to stop Martin Persson here today. Maybe David H. Baker on a short fill, no tyres.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I see Eriksson still in pit lane as we're watching Persson go by. The GTP just got released, so they're going to be merging out onto the same piece of the racetrack. However, this GTP now a full lap back. I just don't see it happening here in 15 laps.
Well, it's 4 seconds times 15. That's 60 seconds. It's going to need a little bit of help. I think Jesper Eriksson right now is 30 seconds behind, and he's cost himself 15 today in this race, Rob. So it was always going to be close, but it's going to rely here on a Persson mistake at some point, or him being massively held up by the traffic in the final stages that's going to put Jesper Eriksson in position.
Well, and this is the point. This is where mistakes happen. This is where you see, the eyes start getting a little bigger. 15 laps to go. Your eyes start getting a little bigger. You want to move forward. As I'm watching, Peterson up into 8th now, 2 laps down from Baker. Was it Edward Shelley? All these pit stops. Once this all cycles out, whoever has to pit, really going to be interesting how everything sorts out. Who's got it left? Who can keep their concentration and who can keep themselves clean? So we see him go around the outside here. Just must have a lot of downforce on that car to be able to take that outside line like that.
And Persson goes very low, was expecting the GT to go wide there, that AMG Mercedes, which is diving back into the pit. So that'll be why Mark Redeker, who just got back out, is going to dive back in. There's still too much damage on that. As this still happens, David H. Baker, Jeff Schmeier, Seaman Broughton, and Håkan Hwet are both, or all 4 of them, are still due a final stop. Adam Fatcher-Ponti is needing as much help as he can because he's realizing that Persson here is only 3 places behind him at the moment. So this is starting to line up not in favor of the GTs here. This is starting to fall away from them right now, Joey.
Yeah, and sometimes it goes your way, sometimes it doesn't go your way on the racetrack, but in the case of the GTP leader, like I mentioned earlier, I just think that he has to look at himself in the mirror based off of those 2 self-inflicted mistakes. So it's just going to be tough to make up that ground position. I still am looking at this number 4, though, because our GT3 leaders, they have yet to come down pit lane. Martin Persson is about to be on the same lap as them. This is going to be close, but I really do feel like it's trending towards this LMP2.
Well, the trouble is Josh Hampton, oh my word, nearly caught throwing a monkey wrench in all of this. My word, Martin Persson is taking no liberties at this moment, Rob. And there's a slide because there's a car spun around as well. He has to drop a bit of time more. Gary Thomas with the spin for place.
Yeah, liberties are out the window now. Guys aren't going to make it easy. They're going to block. We're going to see some guys probably try and do a little bit of blocking. Everything is going to come to fruition here as we're coming down 2 more laps, 3 laps before we hit 10 to go. I'm just trying to check my timing screen. A couple slow cars, but yeah, elbows are out. No more fancy, here, I'll let you go. Now everything is on the table.
Now it's all about focus, because if you're a faster car, you think that you've got a little bit more than what you actually have. Everybody is dancing around, trying to find something, and those late places, they can change on the blink of an eye. That Jesper Eriksson can maybe chase down. Might be chances out there for Ed Shelley and Garen Batten maybe to gain some places late too. So they're also looking at their rushes forward. How many places can they gain? There is the focus on car number 37, Jesper Eriksson, as he puts a place on Jan Bruni for position. That one moves him up into 17th place. Doesn't sound like much at the moment, but it will snowball, Joey.
Yes, it's all going to start to trickle very fast now. It's been the slow road to gain these positions, gain these lap back. But within the last 10 laps, you're going to see the timing and scoring board start to move around quite quickly here, especially with the prototypes coming up through. Something I was noticing, Jake, I've been keeping my eye on Martin Persson in the number 4, because I really feel like he's going to be the one that's making the moves. I've noticed he has been very aggressive on his tires, the car moving around quite a bit underneath him.
It has been moving about underneath him, but we haven't seen him make a mistake over the course of the entirety of these 77 laps that he's driven. But now he will know that he is going to be pretty much right on the limit for everything. We reckon at his pace compared to leader's pace, it will take him roughly 12 to 13 laps to make an overtake, but it will also depend on pit stop window for Baker and how long he's going to spend transit and how long he will spend stationary in the pits, whether that time will be gained or not. There is Adam Fatcher-Ponti. That gap is extended out to 54.5 seconds, so another 2 seconds locked off here, Rob. This is big.
Yeah, everybody's opening up now. Everybody's going to push. Everybody's going to use up their equipment. Coming around here, we're on lap 78 for our GT3s. But as we were saying, Pearson, lap 77, if my timing screen's updated properly. And Ericsson at 76. Now, full deployment, he may be able to make up some, but I'm starting to agree with our director here. It's looking like we're probably going to see LMP2 GT3 when we come around here and get close to the end of this race. I don't think the GTP is really going to have enough.
I think they're going to be short, but the question is how much short with Jesper Eriksson and the effort that he's putting in. That's always the question, and these drivers all knew when they came into this race they had no framework for how close it's going to be. 4 wide as they go through up towards Panasonic. Oh my goodness. Joey for position 2. Wow.
Yeah, yes, this is Oscar Fredriksson, Daniel Blomqvist. They are all battling what is now down the front straightaway. And like we were hearing, all 4 position. Remember, the classes don't matter anymore at this point. The LMP2s are on the same lap as the GT3s. The GTPs are also coming through. And here is the final stops for what is our GT3 class leaders, some of them already on pit road.
Ben, that's Jeff Schmeier and Seaman Broughton.
Yes, both of them are in pit road for their splash and dashes. Very short pit lane, pit boxes for some of them. Only 9 seconds, it looks like, for Jeff, and another, I want to say 6 or 30, maybe a full stop for Simon Broughton. But they are getting those stops in, getting everything settled in for that last jump and sprint to the finish.
This is looking so good for David H. Baker in terms of where he wants to go. If it's only going to be 9 seconds in the stop for him, David H. Baker might be singing his Christmas carols here in January, ready for next year. He'll be so happy with the result that he's getting out there at the moment. Lap 79 of his race, he continues. There's Fatcher-Ponti, about a half a lap behind him at this point, 3rd overall at the moment. Håkan Huet is the only other driver between him that's made that stop, but Pearson, get an eye on this, is only, I believe, 40 seconds behind Fatcher-Ponti, which will mean with 10 laps to go, he will only need to chase 4 seconds a lap to get him down, and maybe 6 seconds a lap for Baker. His average has been 10.
Well, what I think is kind of trending against David Baker in this Mercedes right here is how long pit lane is here at Fuji. So he might only have to take a sub 10-second stop when it comes to that fuel. But with the LMP2 already on the same lap as him, he doesn't have to go down at pit road speed. I have a feeling it might be a little long here for this GT3.
And his last laps were 41s and 37s. They are really trending away. Look at how that time's gone. He's lost 6 seconds over the last 2 laps. Where did it go wrong? Lap 78?
Just there's a lot of issues out there, and we haven't been able to cover them all, Jake. I mean, there's what I'm seeing 35 cars still out there running on the racetrack, and there is problems. Yeah, there's problems that can happen anywhere.
Yeah, he's final corner, lap 78 here, Rob. He's running to the back of Mark Rediker.
Yeah. Which would have been just the previous lap, I believe.
All of a sudden, this race is starting to turn, and you never know which way you're going to look. They'll be at 10 to go as they go through. In comes David H. Baker. This here, Fen, is the money pit stop.
This is going to be it. If David can make this pit stop as quick as he can and not lose the amount of time that is in between him as well as Adam Facciaponti and Martin Pearson, who I believe is right on the heels of Adam, David has missed his pit box, so it could be interesting.
That's not going to help. That really isn't going to help. Now on the jacks, there's tyres. That's bigger in terms of this. No. It's going to cost. This is going to be long, and it might mean that Adam Facciaponti has a half chance. In comes Håkan Wet to make his stop, and now all of a sudden, there is Facciaponti. It is lining up all things Pearson at this moment in time, who finds himself only a third of the lap away from this Porsche at this point. Where is David H. number 33? He'll be right down at the end of the lane. This is going to be a drag race here towards turn one. Baker trying to rush and get himself out of the way. Has he just got the jump on Facciaponti side by side as they head into turn one? Daiichi, Facciaponti around the outside, not there.
No, he doesn't make it work quite yet, and I have a feeling that the Mercedes only took 2 tires based off of that pit stop time. So can David Baker hang on to it? But really, if you ask me about the big picture, Jake, I think 16 seconds was way too long of a stop when we look at the overall lead.
Oh, and now they're going to start squabbling amongst themselves. Facciaponti to the point at the Advan corner. Can't quite get it just yet. Dunlop still awaits down the hill, but it's too right. And no, the move will not materialise for David H. Baker. So that stays there. Pearson, 20 seconds back of this group right now, and he is right in the range. Ericsson at 1:22 needs to find a minute in the last 10 laps. This is going to be close, and now look at them as they squabble through. Facciaponti back to the inside, slides over the inside curb, and Grassen will lose out there, Rob.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about this. You know, we were all worried there that Baker took tires, but I mean, you're losing a lot of lap time on these tires after a full stint. So, you know, this may be to his advantage, taking that a little bit extra time, maybe put front tires on the car, or maybe even rears, just to have that little bit extra grip. And it looks like it kind of paid off for him, as we saw Facciaponti didn't change tires, got a little loose there, just didn't have the grip. So this is going to be interesting to see how it plays out, as Martin Pearson is now in 4th position. 1 lap down from David H. Baker. Has he got enough laps and enough pace to get this done?
I reckon he does, and I reckon he does comfortably, because look, that gap is 13 seconds right now. He's been able to take off 11 seconds or so, 27.2 on that lap. Facciaponti, 39.5, 12 seconds. I reckon this might be a formality with 6 laps to go, 7 laps to go, unless, as there's the pass on Jeff Schmeier to move up into 3rd position. Martin Pearson, knock wood, makes a mistake.
You always have to watch out for it, right? And it could be a self-inflicted mistake. It could be from some other car on the racetrack just coming back on from having their own mistake. So you just have to keep eyes forward out here. But the thing I was thinking about that pit stop with David Baker and taking those tires, he might have been able to do that math and say, hey, I got no chance at fighting this LMP2. I might as well take the points where I can and stay in front of Facciaponti.
Yeah, that's an important lesson in points. The gap now down to 7 seconds. Next lap it's going to be on, and you certainly sense it here for Martin Pearson, who's driven fantastically. It might be a case of how many points can we save. Remember, Jesper Eriksson is going to be important with Garrett Batten and Ed Shelley. Those two are going to be the next ones gaining the more important places, and it's going to be how much they rise up through in the final goings. We're on board right now with Martin Pearson, and he's got that gap under 5, Rob.
Yeah, he's got a really good run here, but I'm watching Ericsson here too. I mean, he's full deploy. He is just, look at the wipers go. That's a sign where rain is coming, man. I'm so looking forward to that. But, no rain here. This is a dry track, and they are going to push. He is moving, as he is only now 2 seconds behind Baker.
Now Ericsson, 40 seconds. He's got 57 seconds, to chase. That's Thatcher Ponte. This is going to be easy for Pearson, this first one. What about the second? Is there going to be a block thrown by David Baker? No. Waits through the Advan corner. This is the move for the race lead. Martin Pearson takes control, Joey.
And now the LMP2 sets off into the distance. However, trust me, the race is not over. That GTP is also on this same exact lap, albeit quite a bit behind in terms of track position, but Martin Pearson has to keep it together. He cannot have any mistakes, otherwise he will lose this race.
Ericsson sets the fastest lap. That's a 23.4, and his focus will be getting past Baton, Shelley, and whoever else he can in the final stages. That's going to be big. Carr is off in front of Garen Baton. That's Lynn Kinchlow, who struggled in the Lamborghini all day. Ericsson knows, first and foremost, he has got to dispatch of Baton and Shelley. Anything else is a bonus here, Rob.
Yeah, he's got to move. He's got to take everything he possibly can out of this car. I'm sure he's got his deployment, deploying it every time he can, especially down those straightaways. I think he can get there. Maybe not. I don't think he can get to Pearson, but I think he can get to Baker. As we come down here with 5 laps to go, going to be clicking over down to 5 laps to go. Full deployment, I think you can get about 4 to 6 laps on full deployment, depending on how you manage your throttle. So he can really move forward here and maybe even take over and have, as I said, LMP2, GT3, GTP as our final. It's going to be interesting to see.
Well, this is going to be the first move and the important one as well. Ericsson dispatching of Garen Baton in the number 61. Nothing that Garen can do about it. He'll have to wave a flag and say, that's it, I can't do anything more to stop that. That's a clean pass on the front stretch. Edward Shelley is only 7 seconds down the road from here, so that's not going to be too difficult to catch. At the rate that he's going, he's able to catch that in, I would think here, Joey, about 2 laps.
Yeah, we're just going to have to wait and see. I got about, 6 and change left on the board. I'm looking at all of these positions that are in front of Ericsson. Now, here on the racetrack, this is the number 12 car. There's a lot of a stack up right here around Joshua Hampton, who's actually chasing down Michael Hogg. This is way in the back, but it is for position. This is 15th in GT3 or 28th overall.
Yep, so you got Hogg, Hampton, you got Matt Gelder, who's in the mix here as well, who's sort of in this. You got Stromby, who's also there, and David H. Baker, who will look behind him and is trying to build that gap to Thatcher Ponte. But all these drivers are looking around at each other. How much time are we losing? Shelley and Ericsson might soon be in the mix. So this is where the final stage become important. 6 laps to go. I think Shelley and Ericsson might have a chance. I think Ericsson's actually got a chance for second.
Yeah, I definitely think he's got the ability to get in there. He's been running really, really quick, clean laps, been able to manage traffic really, really well, which is, completely advantageous. And yeah, Shelley, no slouch either, but, this is all going to come down to how they manage the traffic when they catch these packs. As I'm seeing different packs kind of form up on track here, and they're going to have to pass not 1 car, but maybe 3-4 cars at a time here.
Yep, Shelley's just dispatched of Seaman Broughton, so that's 1 position. Now it's Ericsson's turn. He had a huge issue in through turn 1, was fighting the car to slow down and turn and not spin. He was able to do that. He dispatches of Broughton. Now it's going to be Håkon Huet, who's the next one. This will be for 7th position out on circuit. And now off the exit, can Ericsson get the run? Oh, he'll slide through and do well. Shelley's looking at the next car. It'll be Jacob Hyde in just a lap's time here, Joey.
Yeah, and I do feel that Ericsson is going to be creeping up, so this will be a battle between LMP2 and GTP. However, I think that Ericsson is thinking where he's catching this LMP2 car, because, Jake, check it out. It's coming up to this long front straightaway where that GTP really stretches its legs.
Yes, the GTP has been so good on the long straight. You look at Edward Shelley, he's just trying to hope that he can keep this back as much as possible. Jason Willott's a little bit of traffic in the middle of all of this to try and navigate through. As this happens, the gap remains about 1.2 between Baker and Thatcher Ponte. Pearson is extending out his margin at the front, and Hyde is going to be the next one in trouble. Shelley closing on in, using Jason Willott for a little bit of help, and they're going to be almost 3 wide here in towards turn 1. Ericsson arrives on the scene, gets past Jacob Hyde in the Ferrari. Now it's about getting past the Dallara that's there in front for Ericsson. That is Ed Shelley that he's got to get through now, and they are over the top of each other, Rob.
Yeah, you can see just the closing speed on here. I think Shelley would just be, a little bit of contact. I was just going to say, I think Shelley would be better to just kind of give it up there and let him through. Just the top speed. Knew he was going to get him eventually, but man, you just heard that little scrape. That could have been disastrous for both of them.
That could have been everything and then some in terms of Ed Shelley's race. They fortunately keep it going. Ericsson has his eyes firmly set forward. It's Jeff Schmeier who's the next target, and they've already got through him. So they've dealt with Schmeier. It's now Thatcher Ponte and Baker. And crucially, that gap was 12 seconds, and they got 3 laps to go. Ericsson's got this under lock and key, so long as he can keep it on terra firma, Joey.
Yeah, he's just got to get through these cars here, but we've seen 2 mistakes out of this driver earlier in the race. And with the sand running out of the hourglass, what is his mindset like? Is he still on full attack mode? Because if you ask me, he probably doesn't necessarily need to be on full attack mode, but hey, we'll see how he approaches it.
It's 6 seconds, the gap. Surely it's this lap for Jesper Ericsson to move up into second, and you feel like Ed Shelley is going to break the hearts of Baker and Thatcher Ponte and snatch a podium away in the final stages as well. They've only got 4 laps at the behest of Martin Pearson, who has driven faultlessly here today, but a lot of traffic here for Ericsson. Through 300, he's going to have to thread a needle, and he gets past Stromje, and he gets past then the likes then of Ludwig and Gelder on the brakes. He'll go through, he'll get rid of another one as he goes through of Josh Hampton. Now he's side by side with Thatcher Ponte. He's through. Baker is next, Rob.
It's just, oh man, he's got a tight grip on that wheel. Take a deep breath. Just gonna let up on Baker here. Take a deep breath. Baker goes wide, just kind of lets him through there. But you can see, Shelley right behind him, gonna come up and, as you were saying, break the hearts of some of these GT3 drivers.
Well, Ed Shelley is the next one in the red. There's Thatcher Ponte, who's really trying to go through. Garen Batten might have a half chance to make some places as well late on. So everybody is turning up, looking around at each other, and they're not sure where to look and where to turn. And this is the one issue you've got when you choose GT3. You never know how quick everyone's going to be, but when you're in the slowest car, you've got nothing to defend with, and that is the key. Here comes the look on the straight from Ed Shelley. He breezes by Thatcher Ponte with 3 laps to go. He will do the same to David H. Baker on the run to Daiichi Corner, Joey. Thank you very much. The podium is secured.
Yeah, and actually here comes Garen Batten in the number 61, so he is going to now make his charge up through the GT3s. I definitely feel like the GT3s, they kind of got hung out to dry on this one. The prototypes working their way through. I mean, it was Martin Pearson with, about 5 or 6 laps to go, and here comes the rest already with another 2 laps left.
Yeah, it's just a case of those drivers being a little bit too quick. It's always deceptive when you've got qualifying pace to try and work out a great balance of performance in terms of time delta between them. It looks like the prototypes were a little bit quicker race pace wise, but here comes the look then from Garen Batten. Thatcher Ponte is looking to see that one go away. Baker's going to be next. He had a wiggle here last lap, which allowed through Ericsson. Now here goes Batten up the hill. There's 4th place, and that is nicely put away. Thatcher Ponte looking now just to be top dog in the GT3 category, Rob.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure he'll set it for it. Again, this is all about first race of the season. Get the laps underneath you, get some good points. I think if we had maybe one more lap, we'd see Ericsson and Peterson fighting it out. But I believe, with what we've got left here, I think Peterson's going to take it, and Ericsson's going to take P2, and I think it's going to be between Shelley and Batten here for the final lap to see who can take that 3rd podium spot.
Well, the big thing is the gap at the front is 36 seconds for Martin Persson. That just shows you how well he's been driving in this race. You feel that the 15 seconds that were cost by Jesper Eriksson, the 5 seconds here and there, and he might have been a lot closer with a much better opportunity late on in this one. Fatchaponti still struggling to find something, and we've got more a little bit further back, so keep an eye out here as they start making their run. It will be the final lap starting, Joey, for Martin Persson.
And here comes that number 4 car, sees that white flag from Barney. He does have the number 24 right in front of him. However, you have clicked off 89 laps so far. All you got to do is string it together one more time.
Yeah, but everywhere you look, there's going to be places trying to be gained. For example, Åkesson is past Holmer, and he'll now be the next one to pass Baker and Fatchaponti. This has been some fantastic driving by this number 4 driver, who's just been sliding through every single bit of traffic here today, and there has been no arguments about it. For Baker, though, he is under incredible duress from Fatchaponti at this moment in time. They are over the top of each other, and the positions aren't going to be decided until everyone crosses the line. Down at the bottom of the circuit here at the Dunlop hairpin. This is now where they start to attack back up now through these consecutive rights and lefts, uphill, off camber. Åkesson will now pass Baker and Fatchaponti. So too will Dan Holmer in a couple of moments' time. But there was never a doubt with the pace of Martin Persson. He has simply said, I am on top. I am top dog. And he will make his drive out to the final corner, headlights flashing, knowing that he is on top of Split Atlantic. He wins at Fuji Speedway.
What a race from that LMP2 driver, the number 4, claiming the overall victory. I've got my eye on Jesper Eriksson, who himself is coming around the final turn right now. Panasonic, all he's got to do is put the power down nice and easy, and he will collect that 2nd place overall in the GTP car.
I reckon he's going to be short by about 28 seconds here today, and he will feel like there was a lot more on the table that he could have done. 32 seconds is now down to 28, so he definitely had a chance. Ed Shelley is going to be the driver who picks up the podium, but what about picking up the pieces elsewhere? Baker versus Fatchaponti, the top dog in the GTs is still Rob on. Fatchaponti, big move to the inside. Can he get it done at Panasonic?
He's going to give up the inside, though, there through here. Just going to see who's going to get the better exit out of the corner. Right on his tail here. See, tuck up underneath him. Short run of the line, but no, looks like Baker's going to take it from Chapani. Really good racing by both of these guys.
I say, yeah, you got it. Tom Guest is going to be close, but not close enough as they cross the line. David H. Baker and Adam Fatchaponti will be 7th and 8th for them, respectively, in this race. A minute 13. You feel they got a little bit shortchanged here in this one. They didn't really have a chance to get that through. But what a drive by number 4. And the donuts come out for Martin Persson here around Fuji Speedway. A victory above victories for him to start the season and his team. We're going to step aside for one moment here with the Global Sim Racing channel post-race after... Sometimes a driver drives above and beyond, and that was the case today for Martin Persson. He did not put a foot wrong. He deserved the gap that he built today. 29 seconds. There was no way anyone was going to get close to catching him. He absolutely owned it. Jesper Eriksson would finish off in second position as the leading prototype in today's race, and 2 costly mistakes put him 20 seconds down. You reckon if he had all the pace together, this would have been a really close one over the line. Ed Shelley will pick up the final spot on the podium, and he does a good job. He holds off Garrett Batten and Melvin Orkerson, the second of the prototypes, there in 5th position. Daniel Holmer will be the 4th of your LMP2s, and the first then of the GTs that spent most of the time out front. David H. Baker's 2-tyre call, just enough to get the legs on Adam Fatcher-Ponti, who couldn't quite do enough with his 30-30-30 stats. Tom Guest would end up in 9th, with Jeff Schmeier rounding out the top 10 on an underrated drive, Joey.
And then in 11th place, here we have Jacob Hyde in the GT3 class. Hawkenschut in the 12th position. Simon Broughton here in 13th. And then comes another GTP car of Sam Harper in 14th. Then LMP2 of Ray Partridge in 15th. Daniel Blomqvist in 16th. Oster Fredrickson still in the LMP2 cars in 17th. A GT3 of Gary Thomas in 18th. Travis Henderson in 19th in an LMP2, and then Mike Golightly here in a GT3 car, rounding out your top 20.
Now we got the rest of our GT3s. 21st, Daniel Selim Howard. 22nd is Jan Brony with Jeff Cardamone behind him in 23rd. Marcus Stromberg in 24th. Jason Wallett in an LMP2 in 25th. Matt Gelder and Wolf Diedrich in 26th and 27th in GT3. Ernie Ludwig takes 28th place in an LMP2. Joshua Hampton and Michael Hogg in GT3s in 29th and 30th.
And then over the page, a 40-car field here today. James Dean find himself 31st with the likes of Tom Dreiling and Mark Rediker, 4 and 5 laps down. 6 for Lincoln Kinchlow, 1 to go back and say that it didn't work. Same for Rob Courtney, 10 laps down. Really struggled out there here today. Your retirees, though, Kenneth Reeder, Craig Hawkins, who had adventures early on, Patrick Kopp, Stephen Mioch, and then Michael Hagstrom finding a whole litany of troubles in the early stages of proceedings. But the one thing that we can say is that this racing was simply on another level from one driver, and one driver in particular. That was Martin Persson, and he is stood by with Joey Atterbury.
Well, Martin Persson, congratulations, taking the top spot here at Fuji.
Thank you very much. That was an epic race. Very, very good fun.
Well, you say epic. I want to know how it was through your eyes. At what point did you feel like you were good on the math to get to that number 1 position?
So I think it was probably about 8 laps to go. I think David Baker had a problem at the final corner, I think. Had a coming together with somebody. But up until then, I thought it was going to be incredibly tight. I wasn't quite sure where the GTPs were, but I calculated at one stage that I had 110 seconds to gain in 13 laps. And I thought I couldn't quite do the mental arithmetic to break it down in a per lap basis, but I knew it was going to be tight at that point. And then once I got onto the lead lap, once I got a bit later on, then it was all fine. But wow, what a race! That's epic. That.
Well, what you probably don't know, you had a few things going in your favor today, but I have to give you credit, right? You did not make any mistakes out on the racetrack, while the GTP class leader, he made 2 mistakes himself. You saw the GT3 leader make mistakes, but you were the one who kept it clean, and that is what I think propelled you to that top spot, plus your overall pace today. So did you have any moments out there on the racetrack where it almost took your breath away, that you thought it was over?
I probably had a handful of moments. Thankfully, they all turned out to be minor. I got 2 off tracks. Somebody was reversing onto the track at the final corner, so I had to avoid them. And then I made my own error at turn 3. I just cut the corner too sharp. But yeah, some interesting lines where people are trying to get out the way and you're a little bit unsure as to what they're doing. But beyond that, yeah, thankfully they didn't turn into bigger moments. But yeah, no.
I do have to ask you, because I'm getting fed this note here. Is this your first Predator race format here at the majors?
Yeah, it is. This is only the second majors race I've ever done. So yeah, to practice hard for this and to come out with a win is phenomenal.
Well, congratulations. You obviously did your homework. You did your practice. You performed when it came time to. Anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Just the rest of the Sapphire Simsport team, really. Good bunch of guys. I can now see on the stream that Jacob Money's been poking some comments in there, so that's always nice to see. Yeah, we're just going to enjoy this, I think. This is pretty darn cool.
Well, thank you, Martin Pearson, for coming out and racing with us here. And it was the number 4 car that stands on top of everybody here at Fuji, Jake.
Yes, and an absolutely sensational bit of running that has been done today by Martin. That much we can certainly say. Today's work and effort that has been brought in today has been thanks, of course, to the Majors Garage, the home of free baseline plus setups. Please, if you can, make sure you check on that link. You can get help from any of the garage coaches 24/7. You can sign up now for awesome, affordable monthly subscriptions, telemetry, coaching, and more by simply clicking on our link in the description below. And also, if you use our special discount code MajorsGSRC, you will get 10% off in terms of everything that is put together. On top of that, today's action has been, of course, a charity drive as well over to the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, which is a non-profit, volunteer-fueled organization dedicated to finding cures for Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis, while improving the quality of life of children and adults affected by these diseases. For more information, you can please check out the link in the description below. That is going to pretty much bring everything to a close. So a massive thanks to the entire team that has helped get this one done today. From Joey, from Robert, from Fen, from Daniel, from Dougie, and of course myself. My name is Jake Sperry. You can catch all of the wonderful equipment that has been used to bring this broadcast together, as well as the music, which is provided by June Lalonde. You can catch her stuff on Bandcamp if you haven't had the chance to already. It's always a really good opportunity to get some nice new music into your playlist. In terms of when the majors is back, you are looking early February to get yourself back into play. That will be on February 4th, and we are heading to Daytona Oval in the next-gen machinery. It is going to be a full 500, so make sure that you get yourself checked in for that when that becomes available. But of course, we've got so many other amazing broadcasts that will be coming along in the weeks before that. So make sure that you check in with what is about to occur and make sure you write that down in your calendars. Until next time, though, ladies and gentlemen, with one race down in the Atlantic side of the majors, race clean, race hard, and we will see you at Daytona.
Hey, you know that guy who just before the green flag keys up his mic and asks, "Anybody got a setup?" Well, this is him. This is Adam, and hey, Adam needs some help. On the other hand, this guy over here, this is Steve. Steve is a solid racer and he knows his way around the garage. Steve's problem is time. With a job and a family, he can't find enough time to build competitive setups and to race as often as he likes. But as luck would have it, Steve knows a secret. He lets the Majors Garage crew chiefs do the setup work so he can focus on the racing. At majorsgarage.com, Steve can get setups for over 60 cars on the iRacing service. So no matter what series he wants to jump into, he is covered. Somebody, anybody, really should tell Adam. See you at the garage.
Wow.